Approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Approval of the minutes. Of the May 5th.
I make a motion to approve the minutes of May 5th.
Second. Done. Any changes, anything? Not all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Conflict of interest, we'll do it when we get to the line items. If we have any supervisors here, no, we do not. 6. Mr. Norby, is he not here yet?
If we have public comment.
Oh, well, I'm sorry, Mo is at a DOT meeting today. Could not make
I
it.
skipped public. Oh, I did skip. Oh, I go back to number 4.
Yeah.
Is there any public comment? West conference room or here? Anyone here for public comment? Are you?
Nope. And then they're the applicants for the public hearing.
Oh, okay. Went up in the West conference room then. There's no public comment. I didn't skip it. Exposure. So we're just gonna skip number 7 and save it for next time?
No, I've got a little bit for you.
Okay.
I think first regarding tax delinquent properties, I believe it was you, Chairman O'Connell, that asked about how much we're carrying in taxes on properties. Got some good news in that regard. In 2016 to 2018, each year it was over $1 million in property taxes that we're sitting on that were never paid on properties. Through selling different properties, 2019 that dropped to 398,000. 2020, 344,000. And then recently with the 2 big sales in St. Croix Falls, tax we're carrying is only 64,600. We're making good progress there. Questions?
Do we know how many properties that 64,000 is across? I mean, not that it.
You know what? I don't know how many properties that is.
Some of them are those wedges that we haven't been able to.
Some of those.
Yes,
so
a lot of
we're-
it.
Probably smaller ones because 64,000. You know,
Yeah.
some of those properties we had much more than that on one property.
Some are right of ways.
Yeah.
That were just, yeah. That knocked it down quite a bit.
Yeah. That's an excellent job. And Mo's not here, but I'll give him a lot of credit for aggressively getting those out on the market. Gene Lundgren, I believe is their last name, the realtor, has done a fine job for us as well.
Next new batch comes in when? Next month? The end of this? Should be the 1st of June, I think that next
You're
batch.
right, yeah.
We give that extra 90 days or 40.
You're right, it is June.
It's June, that last week. Okay. Do you have any on the parking lot?
Yeah, the next item on the Sterling parking lot, and Mo was, just gave me a note. He wasn't sure what, but we do have approved in the CIP 6,500 for that parking lot and creating 2 campsites. However, as of now, we're waiting to see where the campsites will be built. Parking lot does need re-graveled, which will take up most of that money. But I think Ben has applied, he says, for another grant to install campsites. So we're still in the works there, but we do have some money allocated for that.
Questions on that, anyone? You're kind of up to date.
I think Ben said that the campsites were 4.
Yeah.
4 under the grant instead of 2.
Correct. Yep, the CIP, we have $6,500 allocated just for the campsites. Parking lot wasn't included in that. Grant was applied for, built 4 campsites.
Oh, okay. Lost it, okay. We got 6, 7 minutes. Want to do 10? You only got one thing. Can you do?
Yes,
I think we can do
sir.
that one. Let's do that. Let's do number 10. Ben can stay up there the hours that we gotta, you know.
Good morning. At the last meeting, we reviewed our fee schedule for every department in the Environmental Services Division. One outcome of last meeting was this committee questioned the land use permit fees for signage for both nonprofit and for-profit. If you recall, we did a time study in 2019 as well as a comparison with other counties. That particular line item was questioned. If you recall, signs for nonprofit organizations, we charge $50, whereas for-profit organizations, we charge $300. Talking to staff, and again, a product of the time study, roughly it's $175 of staff time to process a sign application. So it's very similar to the amount of time that we spend processing, for example, an accessory building application. So again, the signs for nonprofits are $50. Normally that's like churches, other philanthropic organizations. And then for-profits, it's $300. So basically we're undercompensated for nonprofits and overcompensated for profits. So to balance this, perhaps the solution would be 175 for both for-profits and nonprofits. That is a suggestion.
Many sign permits a year approximately. Oh, very many.
Dozen, probably.
6.
Yeah. Most of them in that are for-profit, signs and that. So these go into the billboards. Those are the ones that can take some time in that because we have to work with the DOT if they're along a state highway, make sure that they have their permits, approved as well. But I believe that, a few years back and that with nonprofits, it was a church, and they wanted to put some signs, some smaller signs out by the road, kind of directing them towards the church, not even the ones that are right at the church. And then also in that lake associations, lake districts, and that to be able to put a sign by the boat landing and not be real expensive. So I do know in that Land and Water Resources is working on, doing an aquatic invasive species, signing and that at some of these launches and that, and having some, cleaning stations, if you will, with some signs and stuff. So we might have more permits coming up from like those lake associations and lake districts coming sooner. So
Maybe considered nonprofit.
considered nonprofit right now. So they still got to pull a permit because it is a structure within the setback area a lot of the times and that. So, but
So if we raise it, they'd squeal like stuck hogs.
it's just something that I foresee coming in that soon.
Yeah.
So I was talking with Colton about it and what they can do is permittable, but it's going to require a permit. So
Can you remind us what we charge for nonprofits? Can you say those numbers again?
Yes, for nonprofits, they're $50, and for profits, it's a $300.
Oh, okay. Oh, I have it right here. Sorry. Yep.
Oh,
And
most
you run into
signs in
any
the county
problem.
are probably not permitted.
probably a lot of them, yeah. And that's
You
so.
get 6 on, if you average 6 a year, even if you average 10 a year, most of the signs in the county are not.
Well, we have a list of exempt signs and any sign that is 16 square feet or a 4x4 sheet of plywood or smaller, and that is exempt from any permits. So that takes care of a lot of your smaller signs right there. So there was Reed versus Town of Gilbert. It's a Supreme Court case law that really defined what the county could and couldn't regulate as far as sign language. And basically, if you have to read the content on the sign, that regulation, and that in order to apply a rule out of the ordinance, that regulation is not lawful, is what they said, because you can't base the sign off from its content. So we couldn't say, well, political signs, or we couldn't say real estate signs, because I'd have to read the sign in order to know it was a real estate or a political sign. So that's where the committee at that time, to address that, just went with that blanket size approach for the 16 square feet. So I'm sure all the billboards and stuff are pretty much permitted though. So then they can take the canvas off the sign, you know, and put a new canvas on, or put a new, you know, sheet of plywood if it's painted on that without any permits. It's basically the sign structure that we would be permitting.
The 16 square feet actually helps because before I don't think that had ever been brought up. So
Right.
it was just whatever sign was out there should have been permitted, but if you're under that. So even with that Lake District, you know, putting stuff at the boat landing, more than likely they're not gonna need a permit.
They're talking a 4x8 sheet of plywood and that, so, or they have an aluminum face on a 4x8 sheet. So then they would, but if they kept it 2 16 square foot signs, it'd be allowed. So, yep.
That was the only question on our thing here. Do we change it or leave it? It's your question.
Have we had any
Change it or
complaints? Have we had complaints?
So, and then we had
Yeah, right here. I just wanted clarification as to why. I mean, you know, it seems like a big difference.
Doesn't count.
we had complaints in that before, and that from these nonprofits, and that when the signs were $300, you know, and that they didn't want to do it.
Church once where we say we did roads and then moved the signs and then let them put it back up. That's how it started.
Give them my phone number.
Yeah,
No,
we will.
that's not right.
So what do we think? Just
Well, I
think
could see like the lake signs, because I know on the boat landing at our lake, it's like a 4x8. It's a bigger sign, and
the way people get so much money, we should charge them double.
There you go. Was that a motion? Was that a motion?
We hear how much they pay, so let's do it. They got all the money.
but we want to encourage people to clean their boats and do the right thing. And so it's a real positive thing to have that kind of sign up. It's not selling anything. It's helping us with clean water and all that.
We're looking at installing some decontamination
Yeah.
stations, starting
So-
with the
We're
air.
looking at 9:15, we got a public
Okay,
hearing,
so I hate
gotta leave it.
to raise it.
so
Um,
we should leave it.
I think leave it.
Leave it.
Leave it or change it.
I think we should lower the 300.
I agree with Doug. I mean, I'm fine with leaving the 50, but then the 300 work because
Yeah,
the
what's the-
administration admitted,
It's the
Instead
staff
we're-
time.
but we're cheating from one end to pay the other end.
Yeah.
And this side, I shouldn't have to pay for what Tim's getting a deal on. That's that's,
Yeah, but
So
you've
what would
got
you
this
drop it?
great big billboard out on the highway and a nonprofit has this tiny little sign.
no,
So
but,
is that
no, but
right?
it's under 16 square feet is free. 4x4 is free.
4x8.
And not only that, most nonprofits have more money in the checkbook than for-profits do.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna name the lake associations, Tim.
What would we lower it to? 200?
I'll,
They got it
whatever
written.
Doug
Well,
says, I'll
He
agree.
says he's got 175 just in staff time. Lower without going out to sea.
It's basically the same in that it covers a site visit out there because we want to make sure that they're off the right of way. And that we got to make sure that they're the right height, you know, so it's very much like an accessory building.
What do we get for accessory?
Works for me.
175. It's the same as accessory building permit, so 175 in staff.
I'm okay with that.
Leaving them at 50, or we could raise it to 100.
Yeah, but
We like to negotiate.
Yeah.
No, we're not going back now. We're talking about the big guys here, the profits.
175. Sound fair? Or 50 and 200?
Let's dwell on it. Open up.
Yeah, we gotta ponder this a few more minutes.
Got something
Tracy,
that simple.
this is what happens when you think too hard.
I got a lot to work with.
Yes.
I used to too.
Got a lot to work with. I'm not, yeah.
All right. Let's open up a public hearing here and get.
Right, are you ready, Mr. Chair?
Let's open it up. You got the recorder?
Yep.
All right. So 9:18.
Okay. So the request today is submitted by Craig Nyman. And the request is to rezone a parcel of land from residential Ag 5 to mining M1. The parcel is located in the southwest quarter of the southeast quarter of section 36, town 34 north, range 15 west, town of Beaver. Parcel number is 008-00945-0000. With that, Bob's got it up here on the map. You can see it's a 20-acre parcel. There is a hill right in this area. It's a rezoned portion, starts approximately 400 feet off the center of the road or off the west property line. And it's 360 feet by 360 feet. So it basically is right in this area. None of the buildings are being rezoned and that to the mining classification. There's no wetlands in the area. And that this is the Cattail Trail coming through here. We do have a creek, but it's quite a ways back here, almost a quarter of a mile in there from the proposed mining site. Does have the access to Highway 63 there. That's where all the truck traffic would be, is on there. You just pan up a little bit. So you can see the city or the village of Turtle Lake, and that boundary is right here. So it is within a mile and a half of the property. So we did notice the city or village, sorry, and that for their extraterritorial zoning rights. And we have not heard anything back in that from them. So we would assume that that is no objection at that point. We did receive a copy of the Town of Beaver's minutes from their April 20th, 2021 meeting. And I'll just read what they have on their minutes. Nyman sand pit request. Terry Nyman explained their request to open a sand pit to remove a hill from their property on Highway 63. Trucks will access the property directly from Highway 63 and there will be no crushing of material. The motion was made by either Muse or Mavis and seconded by Evenson to approve their request to open a sand pit on the property near their home, and it carried unanimous. The only other exhibit and that I've got in the file is a copy of this GIS map, just of the property affected. So it's right there. There's no other, navigable waters or anything. There's no sewer system in the way, anything like that. So pretty straightforward. The request is needed to be rezoned because they may exceed the 1 acre open at a time. But it definitely sounds like they would exceed the 1 year time period for the pit to be open. So that would not classify as a short-term mine. So that's where they have to be rezoned to the mining just for that portion of the property.
Wisconsin DOT say anything? Because
We did provide notice to the DOT in that, but we did not receive any comments from them.
it's
So,
existing.
yep, correct.
Any questions?
How much are you taking out of there, Craig? How low are you gonna go? Are you gonna go
He's
like,
got it. Recording, so he can come up. We could have him come up and give us their statement too. Or we ask public comment, and you can ask him when he's at the podium. State your name.
I'm Craig Neiman, I'm the landowner. Dane Christensen had come out from Land and Water, and he said, he estimated there was 20,000 yards of sand in there. And we don't wanna dig down, we just wanna remove the hill. That's all we're gonna do. We're not gonna dig a hole.
Any other questions of the owner, anyone? If not, do we have any public comment on it? Anyone? Online or anything?
Just have a graphic map. Oh, how much the hill is. Can you turn on the elevation data, Bob? Click over here, this little. Right here is showing the hill. Basically, it's the red lines. The red lines are 10-foot contours. So between that red line and this one here, we gain 10 feet of elevation, 1240 to 1250, and we do have a little bit of 1252 there, so about 12 feet of hill.
Uh,
Looking at that map, I think there's more.
Yeah, so the closest residence in that is right here. So it's not a full quarter of a mile away, but it's an eighth of a mile away. So, yep. If there's anything over here on this side.
It's to the south. Didn't we apply?
Didn't reply. Nope.
Okay.
And then we didn't provide notice to these. Nope. All the way around. So standard class 2 legal notice was provided.
And then the town approval, what did they have for conditions?
The only thing that they had, and that was that no crushing would be done.
Just had the no crushing.
Yep.
Was their only concern.
No crushing of materials, yep.
It's gonna be pit run sand or screen sand? You're gonna run
Go ahead and answer, you can answer
It
it.
runs down.
Pit run.
I'll make a motion to approve the rezone.
Well, we gotta close it in conditions.
Yep, sorry about that.
We're in a hurry. All right, we can close the public hearing then because we have all the comments. And what, hours of operation and some of that, do we have like a standard one or what conditions?
This is a rezone in that, so it's not conditional use, so conditional use will follow, so.
Okay, that'll come later.
Yep.
All right. Well, this will come later. So we just know that there's no wetlands in that. That's all we have.
Yeah, so findings of fact, I just got that the property is a total of 20.11 acres. The proposed area to be rezoned is 360 feet by 360 feet, directly east of the southwest quarter. No buildings will be rezoned, no wetlands or navigable waters or floodplain are present. The property fronts on State Highway 63 for access. The property is located within the extraterritorial zoning area of the village of Turtle Lake, and the town of Beaver approved the rezone. That's what I've got for findings of fact.
The access off 63 is existing. We should probably put that in. So they're not creating a new one. One way or the other,
I'll make a motion to approve the rezone
with condition.
with conditions.
Any other questions? Hearing none, then all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, So. So is that on the full board for next month?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be one.
Bob, we all fought it over. Let's finish that part up.
Okay.
He's just gotta
That
go
was in a
down.
hurry to get back to.
Right,
That's what I was in a hurry to get back to.
before you forgot your train of thought, yeah.
Well, that disappears so fast, I can't remember it any.
Finally, got another in the field long enough. that I get it done.
It's tearing a little with the rain coming down. Or are you
If it
ready?
come faster.
Ready?
It's values. Oh, it is. So. 175 is that what we're looking at?
That's where we left it.
And it was his cost. Want to raise that nonprofit? 75 and 75, you want to raise theirs a little bit?
What are we doing? No.
Flip flop them.
No.
Yeah, there you go.
So, okay, let's not overdo this.
Let's not overdo this right.
175, 75.
And 7550 done. Just leave.
He was at 175 and 75.
I'd be like an auctioneer here. It's going.
I like that. I think,
That'll help offset some of his costs. He's,
175 is the cost for them to even initiate this for the
Yes.
profit.
so at 75, we're still losing $100 on each sign. On that one. And we're recovering 0 on the other one. Where this way, we're recovering some, so we should go 2 and 75.
I'll go 2 and 75.
So I could do with it. I could be okay with that. 200 and 75.
Just like in zeros.
How many nonprofits versus for-profits do you get in a year?
We get more for-profits in that than we do nonprofits, for sure. So the only thing I know of in that is that we're probably gonna be permitting more of these, decontamination sites on these boat landings.
Once those are done, then it's done. They're one-time deals. Those are grant monies anyway, so they got more than enough.
oh, let's
Oh, come on.
back to 50 for profit, 500 for nonprofit. It's grant money.
No.
Well, when's the last time that 50's been changed since we did it in what, 2015,
2017, I guess.
17? So it hasn't been changed.
So 275.
175, how's that sound?
200 and 100. That way they're just
Yeah.
nice, even numbers. They're nice, even
You're out of the ballpark. Struck out.
Doug?
75.
My consensus, I
Well,
don't
you
think we
know,
don't have a
but
motion.
now, Ed, I gotta make one more argument.
Make it try.
Can we charge more than our cost? Because we've determined our cost is 175.
Yes, you can.
Can we make a profit? I'm
That's an
looking at
average
I'm looking at the lawyer.
With
Different.
his paycheck, he ain't getting it right.
Question is, can you make a profit on
Sign.
On staff time. We're supposed to do it it's supposed to be at cost. And we've determined 175 is our cost.
cost is your determined to be the staff time, but that
Yeah.
doesn't mean that there is additional
You get charged
costs
more,
associated with
seriously.
administrative fees.
You're only-
We'll have
you're only
legal
paid
fees.
for Hours.
For asking attorney questions.
Versus the other 40 hours in a week or the other
Battery
30
life.
hours a week. of
70.
staff.
It was at 300.
That was to cover the other ones.
Either
Yeah,
do
that's why we did
75 and
that.
200, or we stay at 350.
Yeah,
So
It's what?
we either stay at the 50 and 300, or we go to the 275.
275.
Yeah.
By
Yeah.
consensus.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sure.
Yes.
Just to make it so it looks good. Even the farmer said yes. Oh.
Oh, 200.
What did no, just to make us have to.
Oh, you've been on.
But I had to, yes. Yeah. That's the only one left on those.
Yes, sir.
All right,
Ben.
now we got them. Now we got.
Hey, hello, everybody. Number one here on the list is update for the consultant for the Comprehensive Trail Network Plan. A contract has been signed. This is the consultant that PTAG chose to develop the Comprehensive Trail Network Plan. So we have a signed contract. Staff is going to meet with the consultant this Thursday.
Who is it? Why do we call them a consultant? What's their name?
Alta, I think it's just Alta.
ALTA.
Correct.
Where are they out of?
Yeah.
They have an office in, I think is it Milwaukee or Madison, and then Minneapolis too?
Minneapolis.
New
and-
York.
New York, they're all over.
They're around the country.
National firm.
Midwest.
Team from Appleton, sorry. It'll be doing some of the in-person work with us.
So staff is going to meet with them this Thursday, tomorrow, I guess. Discuss some of the timelines and the outline of communication plan and things of that nature. The first appearance with PTAG is going to be June 21st. That's the regular scheduled PTAG meeting. And then their next event in the county is what we're calling the kickoff, or I'm sorry, the deep dive, where they come and they actually look at our facilities in the county. And that's going to be mid-July. So
Ben, were they one of the firms that participated in that pre-bid meeting?
they were.
It's their bid.
63,000.
Three.
PTAG only had 50, so how did they get 13 more?
Well, that can either come from the discretionary or the, like, contingency fund, or it could apply from the 200,000 that was put into the budget after the sale of the lime quarry.
Shouldn't that have came up to our committee when that comes? Aren't they an ad hoc committee? Don't they run everything through us or the full board? Is that right, by resolution?
Didn't we bring that to this committee?
No. Skipping us.
Well, we were
Skipping
to
staff.
bring it to general government
Also,
because it was, beyond what was budgeted. And then I believe Vince made the call.
everything from an ad hoc committee should be coming through us. Or the full board, it says in that resolution. Read it.
Yeah, I mean, the ad hoc committee, yeah,
Reports
they
to
don't
us.
make the final decision.
They
It
don't
always
make it.
runs
We
through.
shut up, yeah.
Right. Funding, actually, I think general government and.
Did general government pick out? I'm asking, I'm just asking that, are we doing this procedurally right, or are we skipping a place?
No, I think we're doing it procedurally right.
Just think if they're supposed to report to us, we should have been in on this a little better, seen it or whatever, but know what the bids were. That's why I had asked what it was, didn't even know what it was.
We'll keep that in mind. Yeah.
It says either to this committee or the full board. So it'd be like committee of the whole to give a report. But it should be, it's an ad hoc committee that should come up through us. Because they're only advisory. We might have picked somebody else.
Who might?
Committee might. Right. Yeah, if there was 5, 6 of them, we might have picked somebody else. That's what I'm
Right.
saying.
But the PTAG had that recommendation.
A recommendation.
Right.
That's all they can do. We decide. As
Sure.
a committee decides what actually gets done. They're just advisory. The BTAG is how we gotta understand our progression here.
Right.
All right. Just so that you kind of know that you gotta run it through us. All right, or the full board, whichever one. All right, keep going.
Okay, so update on PTAG regarding environmental services recommendations. The recommendation to discuss ATVs on the Gandy, which was the recommendation, didn't make it on May's agenda. We're going to talk about it in June. So that'll come up in June.
Because it was, I think, the meeting before, did equestrians get on there? Or,
It did. Yep.
So both are on it.
The recommendation to discuss ATVs on the Gandy will be on the June agenda. So just to circle back, PTAG, when we talked about equestrians on the Gandy, adding that use change, they elected to wait until the comprehensive trail network plan process is complete. So. Date on the DNR, I'm sorry, was there any further stuff on that one? Update on the DNR response to Mckenzie Creek Trail. No response yet. I did talk to Michelle Carlisle this morning and relayed again to her that this is something that's expected in a timely manner, and she said we'll have something by the next Environmental Services Committee meeting.
It's the same year.
Yeah.
For a response.
We're understaffed then. We're understaffed.
Yeah.
Overworked.
Right. Yeah, can't do much there. That'll stay on our
Right.
agenda.
Update on the Sterling Trail Stage 1. As the committee recalls, we had 3 stages of development in the Sterling County Forest area. The ATV UTV committee, who was given this project, as well as the Lorraine Trail development, they elected to just complete Stage 1 this year. And Stage 1 consisted of designating the County Forest Service roads in that area of the Sterling County Forest, or the Sterling Block Forest, signing. So we're almost done. Spoke with Mr. Carlson this morning, who is working on that project, and the signs they're still waiting on a few signs, but that will like to open that once we can pass the updated ordinance and designate that.
So that'll be this year yet. Something happens this year.
Yes.
Questions on that one?
so do we have a timeline at all as to when we think it will be opened?
Just waiting on signs, so that could, within the next couple of weeks, it could be open. The infrastructure is there. The question is, do we want to open it? Say we pass this amended ordinance, or once that's passed, then it could open, unless the committee wants to open it prior to passing the ordinance. I'm not really sure on the procedural
Why
implications of
wouldn't it
that.
open? I mean, we have an ordinance in place already. I mean,
We'll have to discuss that with Vince, because it was my understanding through Bob that when the signage is done, we can open.
Right, but later on the agenda, we have the rules and regulations. So that's really a question for you all. Is that something you'd like to have in place? Because we do have some language, but the speed limits, the seasonality, things of that nature is later on the agenda. So we could wait until that's adopted to open it up, or we can open it up and then adopt the rules and regulations. That's a question.
Morning. Signage. Waiting for new signs. Yeah, the new signs came, but instead of being brown and white,
or white.
Green and white.
Green
Oh,
and white, that's what it said. So I think they have the signs ordered, but they came the wrong color. They have to get a hold of the sign company and get it straightened out, get the sign so that they can.
So, well, I guess I'll make the argument now rather than later, but opening this when the signs go up is no different than having opened the Sterling Trail that's there right now, right? I mean, this is just an extension of that trail or another trail in the same area.
This would be a change of use on county forest roads. So it would be more than just extending the Sterling Trail.
Right, but I mean, it would be under the same rules that the trail that's there today isn't there. If it was opened before we passed the rules, that's all I'm getting at, is that there's rules in place today. If it opened today.
The rules in place today, the Sterling Trail has its own little set of very basic rules. But keep in mind, if we opened today, we would be open within the proposed open window of operation with these new rules and regulations anyway. So it would still fit within the seasonality.
So I just have a question. Does county not have a sign shop? Why can't we make our own signs? Why are we
They
waiting?
can't afford
I mean, I guess I'm confused.
it. They say go all around, get bids. Is anything else?
We charge too much.
Oh, Lord.
And get it right down to easy, because I like that. That's why we charge too much. It costs us too much to make.
Yeah. They get a stop sign. You can drive to North Dakota, it's cheaper.
Oh,
All right. Did you not know that? She has no business.
I know better, but yeah, we have these facilities to do, just not, period end.
So, this we can kind of decide, we get down to the rules if we want to open it. Once the signs are up or not, okay. All right. Go ahead.
Nothing further on that. We can talk Cattail Master Plan status. We have an easement, a land use easement that we need to sign that was sent by the DNR last week. So they're asking for this to be signed. It's the same easement that we have on the Gandy. It's a boilerplate easement. But they're waiting until the Stour Trail issue is settled before.
Can they explain why that has nothing to do? It's a separate name, it's a separate place, separate easements.
Right.
So they've held this one up for 3 years because they're too busy. The Stour has nothing to do with this one. I thought,
Right. Well, I can't, I'm hesitant to speak for them.
in 3 years.
As Doug said, it's taken them over a month to respond to a letter, so.
Yeah, but this is 3 years. And their excuse is wait till this Stour, they approve the master plan.
The Stour plan?
Did they not approve it?
I don't know, to be completely honest.
DNR did, yeah,
The DNR approved it, so they should approve this one. It's done with that.
but it's being challenged.
Well, that has nothing to do with
Nothing's
that.
changing on the Cattail
Who
Trail.
cares?
They delayed
They're
it.
challenged. They said they want to do it till this was done. We got it done. They should do the next one. It's gonna be challenges and everything forever.
Option would be to send them a letter like we sent the wildlife manager for Mckenzie Creek, similar fashion,
Send them,
asking for a
let's
written
send them a
response.
letter and say it's been 3 years. This is a separate entity, everything. It should not be tied to something else. It should be by itself. All right. Unbelievable. 3 years. They put everything off. Tried to get it so they're all at the same time, so every time we know. They should do it the same year, not maybe in 3 years, maybe in 5. All right.
It's fun having Kim back, isn't it?
The knowledge is back.
Yeah.
What's fun? What's fun? Yeah. All right. Yeah.
We're to F, consideration and recommendation of the Lorraine Trail project. I'll give a quick update on where that's at. That project was sent to the ATV UTV committee to review and decide where to start, and how to start. Where that's at, I'm working on a timeline or a list, kind of an A through Z step by step on trail development. This trail development process for Lorraine is going to be much more complicated and in depth than the Sterling Trail. So we have working on an A through Z step by step. That's going to include some very, very high level cost estimates and things of that nature. One thing to consider there is if we open that trail, if we start building that right now and open that, the county is going to be on the hook for the maintenance dollars. Or we don't do any maintenance and we hope that it, stays in decent shape and we don't have to gate it or close it. So I don't know if there was some other, I'm sorry.
Questions on that one? That was easements.
Go ahead, Doug, and I'll see what your question is.
Yeah.
What, talked to you, Ben, and you said exactly the same thing, how complicated it could get. But you had some questions about cost and who's going to do the work, that kind of thing. So just so everybody knows, I reached out to Todd Miller, the Snowmobile ATV Council, and find out who the what is it, Brad? This club up there.
Oh, EIO.
EIO. It's lost, but
Indian Creek,
yeah, Indian Creek.
well, Indian Creek, we just made a club Friday.
Oh,
Well, then said we need to get the trail marked so that they know where the trail is going to go, because all we had was a corridor. And so Todd was going to reach out to Paul Simons. He had a couple other names. That's who he reach out. I mean, about their commitment and what's going to happen up there, because they went from snowmobiles to ATV UTVs. So Melvin called me, and I don't know his update because I haven't talked to him since, but he was going to work with Paul Simonson to find out if they could get it flagged. And
I haven't got up there yet. We're working on
okay, so he was going to look into that.
so other than, at least my understanding, other than two pieces of private property, this will all be on county land, kind of like the Sterling Loop. So why is it so much more difficult?
The environmental factor. That's really it. There's going to be a lot more engineering. We're going to have to build. If we want a sustainable, lasting trail, we're going to have to build it. It's going to culverts, gravel, class 5, whatever we decide to do. If we want to open a trail that may or may not get destroyed with some heavy use in a wet, rainy weekend, because it happens like that. So that's the question: is do we want to put that money into building a trail, and it's going to be substantial, or do we want to just brush it, cut some trees, and flag it, and hope it doesn't get destroyed?
Personally, I think it's a hard question to answer at this point. It's like I said, it needs to start with the flagging so that you can look at what the obstacles could be. And
But we know the obstacles on the county portion of it already. Because they're just using the snowmobile trail, right?
Yeah,
That
correct.
might be changed.
Okay.
From what I understood, it might be changed a little bit.
Okay, but that's been my understanding that on the county side of things, they were gonna use, if they were gonna use the snowmobile trail, we would know what the obstacles on that county land.
and that was Todd Miller's answer was there would be a lot of the snowmobile trail used. Like Melvin just said, if it doesn't work out, then it might be a better path or something. So,
Path around the low ground.
you said run the ridges.
Yes, on the ridges.
Well, and that would certainly be the path of least resistance too. If the snowmobile trail, a lot of that snowmobile trail does traverse pretty low ground. If there are some high ground opportunities out there, that's just time in the woods. We just need the time to go out and look. So,
Again, time to get around that stuff. Major. Okay.
Money part of it. Mile. Reduce the summary.
All right. Let's get down to G, that's the one.
get down to G. Can you pull up G for us, please? And everybody should have a copy of the proposed change here. So this is ordinance 187. This is a very brief, short ordinance that was written with some very basic language. What we have done is the ATV rules and regs that was a product of PTAG and the ATV UTV committee, and then we also brought that to PTAG last time. That text is in the red. There's a few other minor little changes in red, but I'll go through here line by line if that's what the committee wants to do. So this ordinance, the county of Polk owns and manages an extensive county forest. The county forest is subject to a variety of uses. Some of the uses cause a marked deterioration on county forest. Polk County wishes to stop deterioration of the county forests. So the intent of this ordinance is to protect and preserve the county forest, maintain that use. All terms used in this ordinance are defined in Chapter 340 of Wisconsin statutes. Number 2, no activity by motorcycles is allowed on the county forest land in Sterling Township, west of River Road from County Trunk Highway G, the Polk-Burnett County line. It's different than number 3 here. Number 3 is off-road motorcycles are not allowed in any part of the county forest, Polk County Forest lands, or county forest trails at any time. Licensed four-wheel vehicles may operate in county forest lands, on tote roads, logging trails, fire lanes, and cabin drives only. All-terrain vehicles, ATVs, may be operated in county forest lands, on designated trails and routes only. All ATVs, UTVs must be registered or licensed to ride in Polk County Forest lands. Number 7 is where we get into seasonality. From April 1st until the Friday before Memorial Day weekend, Friday of Memorial Day weekend, all Polk County Forest land trails are closed to ATV, UTV use, including segments of that trail that may traverse town, state, or private lands. That's to protect the spring breakup period. Number 8, from the Friday of Memorial Day weekend through September 15th, you may operate your ATV, UTV only on designated county forest roads and trails. Only machines meeting the state definition of an ATV, UTV are allowed on the trails. All other trails and forest roads are closed to ATVs and UTVs. Number 9, from September 16th through November 30th, you may operate your ATV, UTV on existing ATV, UTV trails and county forest roads that are at least 8 feet wide, are not gated, signed, or burned. So that's making a distinction between number 8, you may operate on designated trails and roads. Number 9 is to provide hunter access. So you may operate on anything that's at least 8 feet wide, not signed, gated, or burned. 10, from December 1 through March 31, you may ride your ATV, UTV on designated winter use ATV, UTV trails when there is 4 inches of groomed snow. County staff will manage, inspect, and monitor trails. Trails may be closed at any time for maintenance, logging activities, or to stop or prevent environmental or property damage. The speed limit on all designated county forest roads and trails is 25 miles per hour. Your ATV, UTV must be equipped with a U.S. Forest Service tested and approved spark arrestor that is in working order. You may not operate your ATV, UTV in a reckless manner without regard to other persons or their property, and such that injury and property damage is likely to occur. You may not pursue any wild or domestic animal or livestock with the intent of harassing the animal. 15, you may not operate your ATV, UTV in any wetlands or within 50 feet of the ordinary high water mark or any surface water unless on a designated trail. You may not operate your ATV, UTV when county or state emergency fire regulations are in effect, or when the Wisconsin Department of DNR wildlife fire or a wildfire danger is posted to be a red flag alert. 17, you may not operate your ATV, UTV on trails or roads that have been gated, signed, or bermed as closed to motorized vehicles. 18, no off-trail riding is allowed. 19, exceptions. This ordinance shall not apply to counties of the state of Wisconsin or employees of Polk County, its agents or representatives while conducting state or county business. Any person who violates this ordinance shall be required to forfeit the sum of not more than $50 together with the costs of prosecution, and in default of payment, therefore shall be confined to the Polk County Jail until said forfeiture and costs are paid, but not to exceed 3 days.
So that last one, that $50. Should also, if they go in and tear everything up, that they have to pay restitution, fix it up. Say they went off the road and tore up 200-300 feet, flooded it all up, somebody's gotta fix it. So that should be part of the fine, I think we should add that last
Yeah.
one. Okay?
Yeah, I would agree with that. $50 is,
Doesn't cover it. So now we do have an all-terrain utility vehicle. We have an ordinance in our new code. This would go with that.
Yes, sir. That's the game plan. For this meeting, you asked us to draft an ordinance.
That would,
So if you're satisfied or if you want to refine it, this is the opportunity to do that.
Yes.
And then at the next meeting, we'll bring a formal. We still have to figure out whether it be a resolution or ordinance to this committee, county board, in June.
Define a four-wheeled vehicle.
Well, you got my question. Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
That was my
Forget,
question.
erase the tape.
define a what?
four-wheel vehicle.
On number 4, it says licensed 4-wheel vehicles. Everything else is defined ATVs. So yeah, that's my question too.
Licensed four-wheel vehicle. This was a product of the existing 1-87. I took that to mean automobile, car, truck.
That's my thought too, but. Tractors, Brad, yeah.
My four-wheeler is a licensed vehicle. My ATV, my UTV is a licensed four-wheeler vehicle.
With forced roads, you can drive.
Right, and so this brings me to several discussions I've had, is that we're saying that I can drive my four-wheel drive truck down the road or a licensed vehicle, but I can't drive the four-wheeler down it. Where's the differentiation at? I mean, if we're looking at the amount of damage that could be done, I get what a four-wheeler can do in the hands of the wrong person, but in the hands of what gentleman over there, 99.8% of the people who are not out there causing problems, the four-wheeler is going to do a lot less damage on that road than the 800-pound four-wheeler is going to do a lot less damage than the $8,000 truck, I mean, on that road. But I mean, to me, my four-wheelers are licensed, they're a four-wheel vehicle. Where says I can drive them on them.
You drive your ATV on once logging trails and stuff.
Today I can.
Existing.
You got a licensed ATV.
Yeah.
But my ATVs have to have a license now for me to be on the road.
Right.
So, because I can drive them down every town, well, I don't know, but virtually every town road and every county road. I can drive them on, they all carry a four-wheeler, or a license sticker on the back of them.
It's just gotta be worded better, doesn't
And, or that, or if, I would be fine if number 9 changed from September 16th to July 1st.
So with number 4, can they drive on those anytime, or does it have to abide by those dates?
So I interpret that as any time. If we're assuming that means a vehicle.
Because I can drive my truck on any county forest road or 8-foot wide logging road.
anytime.
I think I can do it today when realistically four-wheelers would be banned. I mean, I don't,
Correct.
I mean,
Yeah, that's correct.
so on April 15th, I can go drive my truck down then.
Unless it's signed, gated, or burned.
Yeah, right, unless it's gated or burned.
When this was written, I think that was their way of making a distinction between ATVs and vehicles.
That's what
Right, this was written long before ATVs were ever, we'll say, popular, plus most certainly licensed.
And it was,
That's what I've learned in the last few months, trying to get these terms all straight. Because you have a forest road, let's say out there, the one that they're signing for, off of the loop, and it ends up going out to Evergreen. Well, you can drive your truck, your car, your motorcycle on there, but not ATVs, UTVs.
Yeah.
So, they're licensed vehicles because that's taxed.
Gas tax road.
Gas tax rule. That's why it can be used, but it can't. UTVs. So that's why some of these designations, we have to make change to what you're saying because they were just left out years ago. Because they weren't here, like you said.
Yeah, they're just the sheer numbers of four-wheelers
Yeah.
weren't.
well, and it was, when it said four-wheelers, it was like when they have the Memorial Day deal at Troy, the four-wheel Jeeps and everything came and tore everything to hell.
Oh, yeah, Yeah.
They have the smaller Jeeps, four-wheel drives, almost like dune buggies, tore everything all the hell. That might be part of that.
What is, I guess I am a little, so what is the purpose to have a car or a truck on county forest?
Get wood, pick up your deer, pick up your bear.
Hunting, recreating,
Access.
camping, yeah.
They're beautiful
Camping.
roads.
access.
Beautiful drive out there, taking them down until you get to the really soft sand, then you back up and turn around.
Or walk along.
Go get a record.
I was, but.
But-
yeah.
But I mean,
By many of the guys behind me, you could make it.
Yeah. Except they're behind you, they see.
There's still bridges either.
Oh, I like that part.
but I mean, realistically, a lot of these roads, you could have two vehicles on it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how wide they are. It
There's
is,
semis on them.
Yeah,
there
they
isn't-
drive
I mean,
semis in and out.
yeah, some of them are goat trails, but an awful lot of them now are big logging trails that,
They keep
yeah, I'm not gonna say two
speeding on.
semis could meet, but most certainly two vehicles could meet.
Yeah.
Yes,
You
I
know,
must
They're
be
intended
missing out
to
on.
two-way. That's the difference between the original loop, that's a one-way loop. These forest roads are two-way. You can come back on the loop. Because they're intended in, wow. Complicated the way they did everything else.
But now, do we infringe on Mark Forestry by doing any of this? I mean, has he been in on this conversation? So we know that's infringe on the forest roads that way.
We'll get to that later.
Gotta get that one too.
On years ago, when he's talking back four-wheelers and stuff, now we get gas tax money for working on these trails and stuff, where we didn't on four-wheelers. way back when this stuff was written. So actually, the four-wheelers and side-by-sides are paying gas tax from their vehicles, and we get it back when we make what we need for money and stuff at our $800 a mile or 300. We get gas tax money out of that too. So, you know, they are paying their way.
I would just caveat that, though, that's correct, but any maintenance dollars that come from ATV, UTV, or snowmobile for that matter, the only way you're getting those if that's on a funded trail or an approved route. If we just, say if we open the county forest roads from whatever, July to November for hunting, we're not going to, we may get a few of those corridors approved for maintenance dollars, but we're not going to get all the little offshoots approved. So that's the funding consideration.
But that's a funding consideration, but I'm gonna come back to four, all those offshoots are open to a licensed four-wheel vehicle. So my question really is, I think it's very simple, is my four-wheeler a licensed four-wheeler vehicle?
Yeah, those 4 and 5 confuse me there, don't they?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
so either we say all-terrain vehicles may be or all vehicles can be operated on county forest lands, logging trails, fire lanes, cabin drives.
Right, because I think at any point, any of these trails can be gated or burned. I mean, if it's, okay, if we just look at number 4 and we say an ATV is a licensed four-wheel drive vehicle, if the trail wherever is tore up, it can be gated or burned. Just like if it's a truck tearing it out, and then,
To be the same, yeah.
yeah,
But wouldn't you be better specifying the four-wheel as an automobile? Whether it be a car or a truck? I mean, you have UTV spelled out. I mean, everybody's gonna get that.
but I'm still
But
licensed,
the whole four-wheel thing is what is,
Well, I understand what
but
you're
I'm still a licensed four-wheel vehicle.
you know. But I
That's-
mean, that covers, I mean, the UTV piece is covered in that. It's just, we're trying to determine the licensed four-wheel part of it. So if you put auto in there,
Truck or auto, vehicle.
I mean, that would be the clarifying piece to, I mean, we all get the UTV piece. They're all licensed. They have to be licensed. So,
Either that in parentheses, say no ATV. This does not include ATV.
But I'm still gonna be a licensed, vehicle.
Should be able to go on all the forest road, toll roads.
yeah.
I mean, I know what you're saying, Brad, but if it's not allowed, then it should be specified.
right.
But why wouldn't it be
Right.
allowed is the question, I think. Why?
Yeah, I mean, why,
You can drive
if I can
down
drive
there.
my truck on it legally.
Yeah.
Why can't I drive my
That's about the
four-wheeler?
only-
Because we're not talking about designated routes. We're not, I mean, this isn't gonna be the Sterling Loop or the Lorraine Trail. This is going to be a way to get into those dead-end areas that are never gonna be funded
Yeah,
and use
the hunt or
to
whatever.
hunt
Yeah.
or fish or trap or
Trap,
whatever. You go bird watching, you know, get eaten by mosquitoes. Whatever.
yeah. Four-wheel vehicles at number 4 should be defined as ATV, UTV, trucks, automobile.
Yeah,
Well,
unless you put all
I think, I mean,
four-wheel.
I think as it sits, to me, as it sits right now, it covers everything. That's what it
Yeah.
does. It covers my car, my truck, my ATV, my UTV,
You can't pull
you
semi.
know, but it doesn't include my two-wheel drive off-road motorcycle
Yeah, or a semi.
or, yeah, a semi.
So we're back to either excluding or including, because then it could say licensed four-wheel vehicles and ATV. I mean, if that's the direction you want to go, then you can define it.
Yeah. I think it's, depending upon how broad you look at the definition, I think it's defined there now because it's all licensed
I mean, I agree with you, but I meant if you want to get it
Yeah,
defined a little better,
Yeah.
then it would,
and then,
then it
and
would be
then,
there.
and then 5 would disappear.
So because it says only on routes, we'd have to take end routes only off. We'd have to,
Isn't that what happened throughout the county? ATVs and UTVs are allowed on all roads except state highways, county.
state highway and a freeway. They
Right.
got on everything. So
I mean, I think
That's why
there's
we
a
should-
couple towns that have certain roads that,
yeah, you can.
you know, for whatever reason, they don't allow them on, but I think that's pretty, there again, pretty rare.
So if you change number 4 to say ATV, UTV, does that change down, 8, 9, your whole dates that you have that the ATVs, UTVs can be in the forest, that all changes then because you can drive them in anytime then. And how does the trails within the forest connect on those roads? Because you're gonna have some of the trails gonna be on those roads that are already legal to be on.
Yeah.
So if you allow ATVs and UTVs in number 4, it's gonna change everything else down further.
Correct.
At the end of the day.
Yeah, because you would want to change even as far as 7. 7. Yeah, you would want to change 7 to say that no vehicles were allowed in the county forest from April 1st to Friday before Memorial Day, right?
If you add that, because how many vehicles don't have a counter on it, but maybe Brad does, but is there a lot of people that actually drive in the forest on those roads springtime and prior to bear baiting?
See the beer cans, the meth stuff, yeah.
But they're already there legally, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's,
Yeah.
So Sharon's question, I think, is a good one. Is, do we want to designate ATVs and UTVs different than cars and trucks?
Yeah, and it said, and number 1 says, all terms used in this ordinance are defined in chapter 340 of the Wisconsin statutes. So did they clarify what 4-wheel vehicles and UTV, do they clarify that in that statute?
I don't know. I will look.
Joe, we got a legal beagle back here.
I already did check. I didn't see it
Okay,
in there. Sorry.
great minds. Because I think if we had that defined, then it could go through the whole thing. We wouldn't have to, we could have,
Leave it alone.
yeah,
Strike it too. So the black is the existing ordinance that's on the books. That's
Yeah.
187. The red is the most added language.
Now it's last night. This is what's on the books.
No, this has to be adopted yet.
This is what we have in the books
It's
now.
already on the book.
Is this gonna affect the Cattail Trail or the Sawmill Trail? If it's county land, the sawmill owns that.
County
If you
forest
put
land.
Cars on it?
This is county forest.
Okay, just forest.
It's a separate, a whole separate thing. This one is more general.
The question also is turkey hunters. He said something about April 1st, why April 1st is turkey hunting season. That'd be the
By number 4 before you can make that. Because Brad, you're right. If you can, if you're going turkey hunting in April, you'd be better off driving your 4-wheeler on that trail than.
just the way it is now, that would be legal.
No,
No, the way it is now, I
The
can't
truck
drive
would
my,
be legal.
his
The
truck
truck
would
would
be,
be
but
legal.
not his 4-wheeler.
Yeah. That's what I was.
Yep.
you just got them split.
Which,
This one's more just that.
number 4 is the wrong. Yeah. Yeah.
So just for clarification purposes, vehicle in 340 is defined, even though four-wheel vehicle or a licensed four-wheel vehicle isn't. And vehicle is defined as not an ATV or a UTV or a snowmobile for purposes of 340. So that's how licensed four-wheel vehicle would not include those ATVs and UTVs. And that's why that clarification would be there. That's the only thing I can kind of come up with.
Trucks and autos.
If I'm reading four, it's really saying trucks and autos. maybe
Yeah.
not.
So what if you took the four-wheel part out and just put licensed vehicles may operate? What if you took out the whole four-wheel piece?
That would include motorcycles, that would include ATVs because they're licensed.
But it already says that motorcycles
Aren't allowed. Yeah. I mean, you wouldn't be changing any verbiage down below, you're just removing the elephant of the four-wheel.
Ambiguity there, yeah.
Yes. And everything else could then, I mean, it all lines up, your dates, your, because it's all specific then.
But the only thing is on the vehicle part of it, as you encourage people to come to our county to use our trails, who's gonna know what 340 says as a definition of vehicle? I think you have to spell it out so that there's no gray area. It is what it is. Because as we get further and further down the road, people are gonna interpret things like Brad did. Four-wheeler's license. Unless you say specifically no four-wheeler, or you have to spell it out.
This does not include ATVs and UTVs in parentheses or something like that, or highway legal vehicles.
No, but my four-wheeler's a highway vehicle again.
So if we track vehicle definition right out of 340, that's what we reference and write it in there.
What
Right,
was
you
that
could-
again, Joe? Can you repeat that?
So vehicle is defined in 340.01 sub 74. Every device in, upon, or by which any person or property is or may be transported or drawn upon a highway, except railroad trains. A snowmobile, an all-terrain vehicle, a personal delivery device, an electric scooter, and an electric personal assisted mobility device shall not be considered a vehicle except for purposes made specifically applicable by statute. So only when specifically mentioned as a vehicle within the statute is it included as a vehicle. For purposes of 340, in that particular definition, which is the definitions that apply to this ordinance. Fun, right?
Paraphrased it.
Can we fire him right now?
If you can repeat what he said, yeah.
Trucks and automobiles,
On that number 4 up there.
non-ATV, UTV, electrical vehicles and snowmobiles.
Highway legal, because that was the kind of the determining factor, right? Anything allowed on the highway.
Well, licensed, yeah.
And so to your point, I think that's the purpose of that number 1 saying all terms used in 340. I mean, people don't, there's a thing in criminal defense law, right? You generally don't want to admit to anything to a police officer because there are so many laws. You don't know whether you broke a law or not.
Yeah.
You never do. There's federal laws, federal administrative laws, county laws, state laws, city laws. There's infinite things that you don't know. And I like the idea of trying to be as clear as possible, but you're never going to, I mean, you're never, the clearest you're going to be is look at chapter 340. We can add language all day, but doesn't necessarily, it's not necessarily going to assist anybody any further than look at what the definition already is. Because like I said, people aren't going to be looking anyway. Most likely, most people aren't.
They don't even look at the ordinance. But if we had license, do we put 4-wheel there though? License.
No, 'cause I can drive my,
Yeah,
I can drive my car down it.
License trucks, automobiles. Okay, boom, boom, boom. So that's the new number 4 up there.
It's more defining. I mean,
At least it names to the
Yeah.
truck and automobile.
Pickup trucks, should it be pickup trucks instead of just trucks?
yeah.
Some don't pick anything up.
Defer to council.
And so again, the licensed four-wheel vehicles it encompasses everything that you're adding in there already.
Yeah.
That's my guess why that language was included.
This way we have at least an example.
So-
Of what it,
But licensed four-wheel vehicles such as trucks and automobiles,
yeah. At least that is something for an example.
that also, even though number 3 says off-road motorcycles aren't allowed, that would also limit not off-road motorcycles. So
Most motorcycles are two-wheel unless you got a sidecar. You got 3.
but either way, they're not 4.
Yeah.
So it stops those vehicles from getting on the well. So
Such as.
as it's written there, such as trucks and automobiles, and then that whole section in the parent, in the parenthetical, would have to say
Tractors.
not dually, because it's 6 wheels. Non-ATV.
But it,
Not to
What makes
include
it
ATVs,
can't-
UTVs, electric wheels, snowmobiles, et cetera.
was thinking four-wheels, four-wheel drive, not
Tractors, Brad.
They got 4 wheels.
6, 8, 10. How does that look? A little better. At least there's an example.
No, I don't like it. We'll get to it.
I know. That don't matter. I know you can drive on it though. So, now, what do you want to change some dates? I know that.
Mhm.
Change dates in that first one or not?
I don't mind.
On the last line where it says the fine, I think you should also put forfeit a vehicle. Or it could forfeit a vehicle maybe, because Sharon was right when she said, oh, $50 is not gonna stop somebody, but if you forfeit your vehicle, I believe
I
that,
think we can take their vehicle.
No.
You can't take somebody's vehicle.
on Gandy Dan, or on the,
And it's civil, and it's the sheriff. They can do what they want. We're not gonna. I just think we need restitution. to-
Yeah, it's a
wreck stuff.
restitution for any damages incurred.
I think we should take their vehicles so that when the snowmobilers get off the trail, it's mine.
come get them.
Yeah. Well, same as the 4 wheels. Go down through the mud, the wolves and all over, tear everything up. Somebody's gotta fix it. We should do something.
they should fix it themselves.
Yeah.
So do we put a fee schedule in
Yeah.
for what they can do? Sorry.
We ran this by the sheriff's office.
Oh, Joe's got mine and mine's ours.
We run it by him again.
So this was sent to the rec office.
Okay.
And,
You should walk through it too.
he didn't have any issue with any of this. His only question was, or his only comment was, oh, I'm gonna get a lot of questions on the spark arresters. That's a little bit antiquated,
Yeah.
but it still has to be in there.
He should, okay, they should know that. Doesn't, but now, do we have a section on the forest roads?
Yes, we do. We'll get to that later.
Get to that part later where, okay, and that's because of funding also. Stuff, what roads to use, okay. Anything else on this?
Oh, yeah, I'm just getting started.
Well, yeah, it's, I get your numbers up. Come on.
Number 9 then. I would like to see changed to July 1st. Or it can be the Friday of Memorial Day weekend. Because now I can drive my license struck down any of these roads. But I still can't drive my four-wheeler on them on the very same day.
Number 9, Brad.
Yeah.
What's the downside of driving in those months?
They're really, from the issue here, I guess, is the maintenance concern on all of these little spur roads. If we open it all, because that's what 9 does, say, for example, we changed it to July 1st or Memorial Day, that would open it all, which is fine. Just need to take into account the maintenance.
Well, I've had this discussion with Mark several times. The gate or the berm becomes the maintenance. The closing of the trail. I mean, at the end of the day, more damage will be done September 16th to November 30th on any of those spurs than it will be from June 1st to September 16th, because vegetation is growing in the middle of the summertime. And in the fall, if there gets to be that rut or whatever might be there, the grass isn't gonna grow back in. There again, I can drive my truck on any of these. There again today, when I can't drive a four-wheeler on. So come back to my old statement of, we don't need to be the DNR and keep everybody off of our land if we own it. And I agree. I mean, so 20 years ago, the Summers Lake Trail got shut down because one person went in and tore it up. I think those days are over with for the most part, with the exception of here and there. And the county has the ability to shut the trail down realistically anytime. I mean, and anytime that the county can shut them down. So what, other than that, I get September 16th to November 30th was picked because of bow season and gun season. Some of us use the county forests other times of the year. Yeah, no.
Me?
I'm sorry.
My comment is, it's just like the snowmobiles, they need snow to be on the trail. ATV, UTVs don't. I say that from, I'm not much. Grandkids are, my son is. We got trails all through our woods and they stop about December. Because the snow gets so deep and you can't.
Oh, right.
We chain them up, we do all kinds of things, but.
You don't buy tracks.
What's that?
You put tracks on them.
Yeah, right. I mean, yeah, that's true, but that's expensive. But I know how to hook a chain onto them and pull them out.
Yeah, snow stops a four-wheeler. And so
I guess, I'm asking, why September 16th? I understand hunting season. Is there greater risk from July 1st to September 15th if we say we need to keep them all?
The risk doesn't come with the seasonality. The risk, the intent there was to limit the use on all of the roads because we don't have any maintenance or funding to maintain those. So
if they get destroyed, they shut down.
they get destroyed, they're shut down. To trucks too.
Which would, be a downer. On the other hand, we're kind of just making this preemptive. We don't know what's gonna happen, but it could happen, that's kind of like my mom. Don't want you, because I think you're gonna get in trouble.
Yeah.
To me, there's a lot less chance these trails are gonna get tore up by four-wheelers or UTVs being able to be on them than by saying, hey, it's the middle of April. I can go legally drive my truck down that tote road. Or driving my truck down that tote road or that forest road, very same day I'm driving my four-wheeler down. Got 10 times as much weight, I'm wider.
I'd rather see it be less restrictive and then a year from now, if we see it's a problem, we can update this again, can't we?
If it becomes a problem, the trail just gets gated or burned.
Gated, berm, shut down. We can deal with it that way.
That's a consideration. There are some trails that will preemptively have to get gated or burned.
And a lot of them are gated today.
Most of them are, but there's a few that.
Oh, no, right.
Right. So there's, there'll be a little bit of investment on the front end of this too. But certainly revisit.
I don't know if it's the best way to always make rules based on the assumption that it's gonna be bad. If we make the rules based on the assumption that we think people are gonna,
Most people are not gonna load their four-wheeler up to go somewhere where they can drive a mile and a half on a dead-end trail and turn around and go back
yeah,
Yeah.
and load it and then drive down the road 6 miles and go unload and go drive for
Yeah.
another mile.
Yeah.
You know, to me, it's about accessibility to county land.
Just drive their pickup with their four-wheeler in the back down the road.
yeah,
You'd have both.
yeah.
That's
But she gets stuck.
Yeah.
No.
You can unload, yeah.
Am I then legal anytime with my four-wheeler in the back of the trunk?
Sure.
And every time, everywhere, all the time?
So, and to get down to the end of it, we want to take that. Number 9.
Yeah, I would move it all the way to the Memorial Day weekend, but I'd be fine with July 1st, but I think,
Let's put Memorial Day weekend if we trust everybody.
So yeah, and 8 and 9 should go together.
July
Yeah.
1st.
That's gonna be wet.
And just move out the
June is
date.
wet.
Yeah, why can't 8 and 9 go together?
well,
Change
but
the-
8 is just undesignated count, well, but they'd all be designated.
Guess you're not gonna
No.
take a car
It wouldn't.
into a wet trail on
Yeah.
Memorial Weekend. You might take an ATV,
Yeah,
thinking I can get through there on this,
yeah,
get out if I'm in trouble. So I think that's why it may make sense to stay off of it while it's still wet.
You're saying 8 and 9, I think, Ben, you were shaking your head, I believe that they're different because 8 is designated, 8 is, let's call it the Sterling Loop.
Yeah.
And what could potentially be the Lorraine Trail, if
Yeah.
you know.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay.
those.
Gotcha.
They're almost designated here, almost means like funded trails. Right? I mean,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, almost, yep.
So we go July instead of July 1st instead of September 16th.
So, okay, before we do this, Brad, clarify your reasoning for what's the benefit to changing it to July from?
All the other hunting and fishing.
all the other hunting and fishing.
Fishing.
Hey, gals.
You don't fish.
Yeah.
Fish?
Okay,
Is July 1st or should it be Memorial Day? Well,
June is a wet month.
Yeah,
Every month you couldn't. It's June. July.
Yeah, July
Yeah,
1st. I'm fine with that.
months, 18th thing. Why? Too early?
I'm thinking it's because of camping, because county land's also open to all camping if you contact the county forest. So anything you can do
Is
with
camping
camping
open?
part of it.
When does
Part of that
county
too.
forest open for camping?
Always open.
It's always open. Well, it
Well,
don't
it's open for
matter.
camping, but you can't drive out there. You have to walk in.
Drive up there.
Can you drive out there? Yeah, it doesn't say that.
It does.
Memorial Day weekend?
In a car.
Number
You
4.
can drive out there
it
any
with-
day.
With your pickup. You just-
Oh, okay. I get it.
With your pickup.
You
Put your four-wheeler in the back.
just can't leave there with your four-wheeler.
Put your four-wheeler in the back. Okay, so number 9, we'll go July 1st.
So then, one last question, number 10. Are we talking there, I mean, that would realistically just be snowmobile trails, right? And we're talking about designated trails again. And 4 inches of snow.
The Sterling Loop, for example, would be a designated winter use ATV trail. So we applied for winter use maintenance dollars for the Sterling Loop Trail.
Okay.
So that'd be an example of an exclusive winter use ATV trail.
Roads. They
Right.
can't go on the trails to do them.
One thing that hasn't been brought out, these guys are either straight me out or Ben will, but these gas tax funded forest roads. The club can groom them, but they only get 50% of the money.
Because they're a road.
Yeah.
Or a-
Because they're a forest road, but
Yes.
we still get our,
But they still get funding for maintenance, but it's just at 50.
and I think the county gets just X amount of maintenance money too. Still gets theirs.
Yeah.
The county gets theirs, and you guys only get half though.
And when the logger wrecked some property, I can't remember where that was at. I think it was over by Round Lake. Some land we had over there in Lorraine, they wrecked that. We had to fix that because we couldn't get through there with the snowmobiles because they wrecked it so bad. So we had to help, I think Mark applied for some stuff and we did some stuff on that, correct? So the logger wrecked it. We didn't wreck it. The logger wrecked it. And we had to go in and fix it.
What else do we? Yeah,
You mind me asking a question from corporate counsel?
no, go ahead.
So, Joe, now that they've refined this ordinance, we'll come back at the next meeting. Should we rewrite the entire ordinance or can we just have a resolution amending 187?
I think it would be cleaner to have a new resolution as opposed to, I guess, if all of this red stuff are the changes, that's basically the entire ordinance.
You're saying a whole new ordinance then, a rewrite? And it'd be 27?
It would be 38 something.
Wouldn't we be better off to just state in somewhere in the new resolution that this gets rid of resolution, whatever is out there, 187 or whatever it is? We could move forward by stating in our,
Amendment or? a
and
rewrite?
stating that in our resolution that we get rid of the old one, so that they're not both sitting on the books. Right. You know what I mean?
So does it go in the new book, is what I'm saying. New book, it's Article 3847. It's all terrain utility vehicle operation and restriction. So would it go into this, it would go into this section,
Any new stuff
it's into this book,
goes into the book.
so it should be numbered.
Well-
Done according to this.
Okay, but, okay, forgive me, I don't quite get the answer. So are we amending that or are we introducing a whole new ordinance?
You're amending this, I would say.
Okay, so that'll be a resolution. We bring a
Did that get
resolution.
passed last night then?
Yes.
Yes, it
Okay.
did. But we
Just
still have a
wanted to verify
window to send a vendor Muni code, all the ordinances from October till now without be codified, without.
So that's, it should go into this because we don't want another standalone.
I think it would make sense if we can get it into there.
There,
Is it
so
ordinance?
that's resolution. That's the old one, right?
Be a resolution.
Oh, I put this last night. This is-
Yeah, no.
This is-
So
We
we'll
can get it to them. Want.
in the form of resolution for this committee at the next meeting, amending 187. You get that, Ben?
This would actually fit in here or in the Forest Road part.
Some of it.
So we have to look under both of those, look under the Forest Roads and then the AED stuff. So we have to remember, we do any ordinance changes and stuff, it goes in this. Yeah. every time. But now your committee's looked at it too, haven't they? Just
We have,
with all these changes yet, or have they not seen all the new ones?
meet, first Tuesday.
They didn't have this.
That's a product of the ATV committee.
Oh, yes, okay. So you,
So, and I got another, you waited too long and I got another question. Yeah. I mean, I know nothing about grooming, but is there ever 4 inches of groomed snow? Huh,
Very
huh.
seldom.
I got one guy going like this and one guy going like
A
that.
base, and that was the distinction that was made last time. which was struck out of here as the term base. So having a 4-inch
Okay, what was
base,
struck out?
the word base.
Well, you weren't here.
But they go flat down to.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So the word base was taken out.
So there is 4 inches of snow, but it's not 4 inches of compacted snow.
Okay. Yep. Get it.
I did not.
You're on their agenda.
One is more than enough from there.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, they.
Okay, so it's on the committee's agenda. Public attention.
Sure can be.
I don't know, saw the red.
That was it. I just used the red.
The same thing.
Yep.
So then with a few changes, then make sure they at least see it again. Changes that we made on 4, 9, stuff, so they see that, yeah.
We'll bring that to their attention.
So this is going to
They'll just
be
look at it.
two environmental services committee meetings from now, right?
Yeah. When do we meet again?
June 2nd, we move again, so that'll be prior to your next UTV ATV council.
Gotta go with what the committee.
Yeah.
We'll bring,
Keep it moving.
This committee meets before our other.
Yeah, a week before.
Yeah, so not to drag this out any longer.
What are you waiting for?
So this committee,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can get it.
Yeah.
yeah, I believe that we're okay with it, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, we wanted to move on as soon as possible.
I think we're fine.
Move along. Yeah.
Oh, we're back to
I just
here.
don't like the fact when you see a kid spinning on this trail and you can't take away his wheeler that.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
this-
I was looking like, we can get this whole thing.
Yeah.
This won't be contingent on ECD UTV committee.
We got an hour ago, Colin.
Yeah, this book is.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm glad.
Boy,
There's
good
more
thing-
stuff that'll have to be added into this too.
Good thing,
This-
good thing you got me on the right page there, Colin.
Yeah,
'Cause I was really, trust me,
We'll
I
have to
was,
get it, want to reopen the meeting.
yeah.
So we're good with
Okay.
this.
Number 9 will read July 1st through November 30th.
Yes.
And then that wording on number 4 is always changed, I think, and then the very end.
then I got it all saved. I
Restitution,
saved it on your.
Okay.
restitution, maybe, or, for damages.
You have any recommendations on restitution or just restitution for damages?
For
Restitution,
any damages incurred.
like if you cut a tree and stuff in the shoreline, you gotta add 6 trees and take care of this.
I have one
Yeah.
last question. Number 16, it talks about emergency fire regulations are in effect. I mean, I know how to go out and check on the website because I issue fire permits, but for the town. But how does the average person know that there's a red flag alert for wildfire danger? It just,
Smokey the Bears.
You know, quite often now you'll get an alert on your cell phone if you're in a red flag area.
Sterling Town Hall has a sign. Don't they still have that sign out at Sterling Town Hall that says danger, fire danger?
Every DNR deal will have it up.
A 3x4
Who is that?
sign each trail.
I mean, I just, when you have a regulation,
Pay somebody to
how do you
flip it
enforce
to high
it if,
or low?
Hey, here, who knows, all these, you're breaking the law for being here. So, that's,
yeah, I
you'll
don't
never know.
know.
On number 19, does that mean that the county administrator can just go for a drive out in the woods and look at trees and is he on county business?
If I'm conducting county business, not on Saturday or Sunday or.
It's out there, right? There's a.
Okay.
Been driving there all spring, so.
All right.
Okay, so now I got to, thanks to Chairman O'Connell, I got to back you up to D again, Ben.
E.
Sterling Trail.
Oh,
I think we should just open it when the signs are available. That was
Because the other loop will be open and this is an extension of the other loop.
Just, if
I
the
mean,
signs are up, go.
realistically, if it isn't open, it isn't any good. It's kind of like having something that you can't use, and that's kind of the way it would be. So I,
Because they'll be under the old ordinance.
yeah, my recommendation, my thought is that whenever the signs, whenever the right colored signs come in and they're up,
That's what they were hoping.
the trail is ready to be open, I think it should be open. I mean, because we do, like you said, Doug, I mean, there is rules out there. They're just the old rules. We don't, you know,
We're just upgrading the old rule for, just for that original.
Forest roads.
yeah.
So they'll just be under the old until everything is new.
Yep.
Then you can get it open.
Do we need a motion for that or? Which
I don't-
it can just be open.
I don't think so.
They can just.
If somebody calls or asks,
Yeah, D, Sterling Trail. Open.
once the signs are up, then it's open.
Yeah.
We're still operating under 187.
Rules, we still have rules. We still
Yeah.
have this one.
Yeah.
We have these.
Yeah, the rules are as they are today, and when they change,
It'll still be open.
they'll still be
It'll just
open.
be- There's some different rules.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll bring back a resolution to amend 187 for the next Environmental Services Committee.
Well, to make sure it's codified, right, so it fits into the book, I guess, is what we gotta do, so, and then refers back to first too. This is chapter. So everything's gonna have new numbers and stuff. Sure. But no use trying to put another chapter in here if we got one, so it's in two different places, that it's all in one. Keep that going that way. All right. That's got signage, it's got the annual routes, all the other background stuff is in there already. This has some enforcement stuff to it, penalties, and it just gives the statutes, which is good, because then there's no numbers in there. Have to change, so maybe we should look at that, take the 50 out, see what these are. 52 enforcement penalties. It's got all the statutes. 5. Still want to apply restitution. So it does have all the other stuff. It's already. That helps. You know, then try to rewrite a whole new ordinance. We got one. Okay. All right, are we good? Okay. Number 11.
Stop discussions, Brad.
Yeah,
Stop discussions. You can.
Oh, wait, I found.
put it under, put it under, and then I reminded him, and I pulled it back out. I heard it, it's fine, it's something else.
Okay.
Didn't work well. What do you want here? Give us some action.
Number 11.
Number 11.
At the end of the day. So resolution,
2020.
yeah, 2021. First, what this resolution is not, it doesn't eliminate the county shoreland zoning. It only changes, it identifies, it allows the town to identify the districts and the uses. So it doesn't, I mean, everything else still applies across the board for all the towns that are zoned themselves. They still have to follow all the shoreland zoning restrictions.
You have a copy of this to put up there? I don't
It should be,
It was in your packet.
have. Is it in it?
It has 21-01.
It's 2021, I believe.
They included this in the version that came out yesterday or the day before. It's
Yeah, the one I have just has -21 on it.
You'll have this
for
version?
the sign, I read.
2021 is what it 20-21.
This is.
Anyway, so the town of St. Croix Falls, they made a decision years ago not to become part of county zoning. So they're similar to the town of Garfield and the town of Farmington. And as part of that decision, The town hired their own zoning administrator. They created a plan commission. They've developed and maintained their own zoning ordinances. We have sign ordinances too, just so you know. And we have our own fee schedule set up for required permits and for zoning violations. And the zoning administrator is responsible for those, doing all the work around zoning violations and notifying people and all that type of thing. So that's something that the town has done for years. You heard me talk before about an example of how, and I used St. Croix Outdoors as an example of where the town has that property on Highway 8 zoned commercial. That whole Highway 8 corridor is zoned commercial, but the county now has that property and that area zoned RA5. So it's a challenge because, for example, if you'd want to sell that business, it would have to have a rezone at the county because the town would recognize it as a commercial, it's commercial, zone commercial, so it wouldn't be any issues. But then the person would have to go to the county, do a rezone, and go through that whole process. It's confusing for people. We've had several examples that we've dealt with in the last couple of years now that people have gotten caught in the middle of this town versus county, and it's not customer friendly. I can tell you that. We've got another one right now we're working on, Big Rock Creek Farm. The town just approved a campground. The Plan Commission approved the campground. It's on the agenda tonight for tonight's town board meeting to approve that campground on Highway 87. But it's zoned appropriately in the town for campground. But you don't know what's going to happen at the county level yet on that one. So go ahead.
Did you not get the maps when the comprehensive plan was redone?
Yes, and we actually responded.
So you rezoned your whole township.
No, our township had been rezoned. That's the way our township was zoned.
So did that map come to the county when Jason Reed did that, even at his time, even before that?
What did that map? Well, the county's, that it didn't change at that time. That's the same map that the town has always had.
Well, then it has to be rezoned. If the town didn't rezone it, the town rezones land, does it not? At the town level.
Yes.
So you take your town map.
Yep.
When we did the comp rewrite, you put all your different zoning in there. Okay. And that's what you started. That was your base. Okay, now we did the new districts. Did you put in all these new districts? Did you do any of that?
No.
Well, you didn't do your job.
We have our own districts.
Correct.
We have our own uses, and all that's been is identified in our map.
Is it given to the county to update theirs?
I think if I'm correct, Sharon, that's when the town of St. Croix Falls sent a letter back to zoning saying, no, we don't want this. We're
They
gonna
don't
do it
want
ourselves.
this.
So they refused to send in that new map.
Yes, the town sent a letter, and you've got a copy of that letter, that said, we're not
If you
going
have
to,
it zoned commercial, it'll come up on the county. It's zoned commercial. We don't rezone it. We don't change the zoning. The county itself does not. So the original map.
St. Croix Outdoors is zoned commercial in the town of St. Croix Falls. It's zoned RA5.
So you have to go back and find out when St. Croix didn't change it. Get the
No,
map.
St. Croix didn't change it. The county changed it to RA5.
The county doesn't change the zoning.
The,
How far back can we go
I
and look
think
at
the
that?
difference here is town is, I may be misspeaking, Sharon, I don't want to.
No, go ahead.
What the town is saying, in a polite way, county, mind your own business. We have our own zoning.
Correct.
We're gonna make all these decisions ourselves with regard to this.
But-
And I think they made a statement by sending a letter to say, we're not gonna send you a map. This is our job. We're doing it. Leave us alone.
That's why there's confusion. They don't send the map to the county and the people come to the county to look at a zoning map. That's wrong because you didn't send the right one in. How come you don't send us the right map? How come you don't send the
So
county the right?
you're saying if we send you our current zoning map, you're gonna change all the zoning districts to match ours?
That's what every town does that when we did the rewrite. That's what they had to do. We
But
had
our
3 years.
districts do not match the
You did
listed
send it,
districts
but
there.
Whatever you have, you would send it.
And the uses don't match.
That's correct. But if it's residential, commercial, industrial, whatever you wanted, you would send that to the county. You had 3 years to do that when we went through all this. There was 3 years to update all these, sent them, and then we went another year because nobody sent them in. So all the townships could do that, so that it would be consistent. So we waited 4 years and now it comes to the head again. So it'll still be
So
wrong
Kim-
if you change one at a time.
Just so I understand it. Are you saying if St. Clair Falls gave us their map, let's say we allowed them to do this,
Yeah, they should.
and said, okay, here's how St. Clair Falls is zoned. They're commercial here, they're residential over here, they're whatever it is. The county will automatically say, okay, this strip along Highway 8 corridor, let's say, that's gonna go from what we have as RA5 today to commercial.
Without rezoning, because that's basically what you did when we did the update.
And
Each town sent one in, even though you have your own zoning.
so our zoning maps here then have all of the different districts and stuff that the different towns have identified.
Yes.
So what if
When
we don't,
what
what if
did
we don't
was
have
if
one
you're-
of theirs?
If you're in town zoning or county zoning, they could take any of these or none of them. They could just say everything's R1, the whole township. We used to have stuff like that. But now it's getting
But we
changed.
don't have the same districts.
That's correct. So you would put your districts, put them on a map, and they would line them up as close as they could to this. So if it comes up, it isn't this.
What do you mean line them up as close
Well,
as
if you
they
have
could?
residential, industrial, obviously, they're way different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they have different uses.
Different uses. So yours would be set each, there's only 3 townships with this.
Yes, and all three, and we've got letters in support of this resolution from the town of Garfield. We've got it from the Wisconsin Towns Association. We've got the letter that was sent to the Environmental Services Committee saying, you know what? We don't want anything to do with this. The town is saying, you know, this is our job to do this
But
zoning.
if it's the county's job to maintain them records, how do we maintain records that you don't give us the right information to?
Just looking here and reading and following. But if they have set up with Jason that they're the non-shoreland area, then Jason just says, well, you have to go to town of St. Clair Falls.
Yep.
I mean, it's that simple, Jason.
Yeah.
He doesn't look at the map. He knows what's not shoreland. And he just says, well, they're in charge of that. And
Yep.
you said it's commercial, it'd be commercial. Does that make sense?
Yeah, if it's not shoreline, it's.
But that's not the way it's been working.
No, I know it's not. I'm just saying, now with your negotiation and trying to get so your zones are what you have, and you said you have different regulations, then we're out of it as far as zoning. They just say, go to St. Croix Falls, the town.
You're saying the county would just say, if I walked in and I was from St. Clair Falls.
Or from anywhere, but you would
Yeah.
want some land here.
Right, but I mean, and so I walk into zoning and I say, here's what I want. I live in the town of St. Clair Falls. Then the county zoning would just say, go
You
to,
have to go there.
here's the address, go to the town of St. Clair Falls, at whatever the
I
address
got it.
is.
So, yeah.
But shoreland zoning still
Right.
applies. Now, for example, by the changes that were made at the county level, if regular zoning, if there's an issue, like, say the county makes some change, somebody comes in at the county level and wants something rezoned. the town has a right to say, we agree with that or we don't agree with that. But because they've now put those uses in shoreland zoning, that's different. The rules around shoreland zoning are different. The town has no say in that now. So whatever the county says about shoreland zoning uses is what applies. That's my understanding, that the town can't.
No, it's whatever the underlying is. No, it's whatever the underlying, whatever you put under there. If you wanted res or commercial, there's commercial spots and shoreline, of course. Whatever was underlying before is there. The shoreline part that Jason has to do is 115, the runoff and mitigations and all
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
The use would stay at the town level. If you wanted residential or whatever, that would be yours. And then they use the most, Jason does runoffs and that use.
That's not the way it's working today. If something's zoned commercial in shoreland in town of St. Croix Falls, and the county has it zoned RA5, if they want to put a commercial business there, the town of St. Croix Falls will say, okay, here's our commercial guidelines. Here's what you need to do. Oh, but you also need to go to the county and you need to request that property be rezoned to commercial from RA5 so that, and hopefully the use that you want that was approved at the town of St. Croix Falls is also on the approved use list with the county. And that's the way it works today.
Should have Jason in here.
Bob, can we have Jason come in here?
Is he out?
Jason?
Is he around or is he out on inspection?
We did
There's up and I was just
Yeah.
Monday. I wasn't at the St. Croix Outdoors, but we went there.
Yeah.
And they're moving furniture store.
That's not St. Croix Outdoors doing that. The furniture store is owned by that dock place, St. Croix Dock.
Yeah.
St. Croix Outdoors.
Yes.
I know that's come up in conversation before. Wondering if that was the RU5 and I wondered how the furniture.
No,
So,
it's on why.
so Sharon I get what you're saying. But let's say we have a commercial use and so you change your map to the county. And so the highway corridor is all commercial at the town and the county. What you're saying is that the town has uses in their commercial district that the county does not have, or vice versa.
Yeah,
So,
correct.
so I could be in commercial in both of them. And so I don't have to rezone or anything at either the county or the town. But maybe the county says yes, the town says no, or vice versa.
Yeah.
Because the uses don't line up, even if the district lines up.
Yeah. And the districts don't line up today.
Right, but even if we line the districts up, then the uses wouldn't line up. So I could be I could be St. Croix Outdoors and maybe be allowed in the commercial on one side of it and not on the other side of it.
Yeah.
Sell ammo, but you can't sell the gun. Or what? Something like that. And it's stupid.
Right,
But that's how
right, yeah, which comes first?
You
chicken
could,
or the
yeah,
egg?
you could, St. Croix Outdoors, and I'm just using that as an
Yeah.
example, but St. Croix Outdoors could want to sell their business, but the way it's set up now, they could not sell that business because the next person couldn't operate that business for the county. But they could operate it for the town of St. Croix Falls. So they'd have to go to the county, have a rezone, and then hope that use was a permitted use.
So is there guidelines that tell us? Is it on a less restrictive with the city or the town of St. Croix and a more restrict? I mean, is it that way? I guess I don't know, because I'm a
Whoever's-
little confused by this.
Whoever's more restrictive.
But I mean, each one would make up
So-
their own.
So by restrictive, then are we talking about, realistically, we're talking about the uses that are allowed in that district, right? I mean, that's,
Yeah, the
Yes.
restriction.
Jason,
Yes.
We need a little clarity here.
Yes.
What's going on?
Would you mind? I worked with staff. We came up with some pros and cons.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go through the,
But I will tell you, the town is, I mean, I've talked to them multiple times on this, talked to the town attorney on this. They're adamant. They want to keep their own zoning. I did,
that's what you want them to.
I mean, that's what they want. They've had it for years and that's the direction they want. Bob knows, he put some information together for me because I tried to sell that idea. There's reasons that they want their own zoning and they don't want the county involved in it at all. So that's just,
That's why we have unzoned ones too. by
Yeah.
default. They
Yeah.
don't want it. Just cut and dry. That's.
You guys are all
Explain
rebels.
it. They just say no.
You guys are all rebels.
All right.
Without
We
a
don't like,
cause.
we don't like to just toe the line like the rest of
What
you.
does this change?
Because, yeah.
What does it change? Well, going forward, if this was to happen, Polk County would not conduct general use zoning administration for those 3 zone towns. And that's the town of Garfield, the town of St. Croix Falls, and Farmington.
you don't do that today.
Well, if you don't mind, I'll just read through the pros and cons. So again, we're just exempting these 3 towns from our zoning ordinance and allow them to apply their use provisions in the shoreland overlay. So some of the pros, all other non-use provisions still apply to our zoning authority. That means, road setbacks, ordinary high water marks. So that part of our authority and control is still there. All the NR 115 regulations, buffers, water quality, mitigation, boathouses, still in our wheelhouse. The sanitary and land use permits will still be administered by Jason's department. This is a pro, it does eliminate that extra step, that county rezone process. So all the rezones would happen at the town level. I think it's called a special exception there. So
Well, special exceptions like a CUP.
Oh, I'm sorry. So the rezone, forgive me, that's right. Every time we have a rezone, naturally after it gets approved by the town, it comes here and our record is pretty much to go along with the town. So, but that layer would be eliminated. We would not see those rezones from those 3 towns. The town would receive the permit fee revenue. There's a pro for the town. And I think what maybe the town plan commission, the town of St. Croix Falls intent is to have more local control. And, they have their own town comprehensive plan. So by having this local control in the shoreline district, the zoning authority, it could help them implement some of their community goals and objectives that is outlined in their comp plan. That town zoning, as we all know, gives more local control for land use, appearances, quality of life. And I think there is some value with this because the zoning officials at the town level have that local perspective. They know what's best in regards to mixing incompatible uses. They know what fits. For example, you might have an undesirable development while you don't want it next door to a housing development. Town zoning can allow potential nuisance uses to be located away from, residential areas and other environmental sensitive areas. Town zoning, there's this local control again. Their ZA, their zoning administrator, will regulate and enforce their own ordinances related to use. So that could be the nuisance ordinance, the tourist rooming house ordinance, junkyards, bunkhouses, CAFOs, etc. And like Sharon mentioned, it is supported by the Polk County unit, the Wisconsin Towns Association, as well as I think we have a support letter from Garfield. I'm not sure if anyone's reached out to Farmington. Cons. So again, this is from a sort of a objective view. There is a level of commitment that the town's going to have to consider. That means, having professional zoning administrator at the local level with some land use expertise. And so there's some cost there at the local level. I think you understand that. Some other cons would be the lack of consistent land use districts and uniform rules may cause confusion, between for the residents, for contractors, for realtors, for surveyors, for developers, because the definition and their uses will be different from the county. So for example, with Deer Lake, you're gonna have the west side, you're gonna have two different set of ordinances as opposed to the east side, which falls in the town of Balsam Lake, which still is under county zoning authority. So regulating uses within that shoreline area in Deer Lake might be confusing for some of those property owners, particularly, and I think we have a couple properties that are in both the town and Balsam Lake. So there's that. I think, if this goes through, we're just gonna have to change our work processes, and communication strategies with the local zoning officials. And so anytime we address any land use questions or decisions from these three zone towns, we're really gonna have to work with those local town officials to, we do permitting, when we talk about setbacks, official map, and non-conforming structures. Our department also will be obligated to issue a land use permit that may conflict with the town's permitted uses. So that's the reasoning behind, developing a clear, open communication system with, or strategy with your zoning staff and plan commission.
We've had that particular instance happen.
And just lastly, town zoning officials and county zoning staff may not be able to relay correct information to our customer due to the different ordinance authorities. That's going to create some confusion. County staff, we can't speak on behalf of the town's ordinances. So that we're either going to have to learn them, be able to convey them, or just send them your way. We'll figure that out. These are like pros and cons.
But remember, the town nothing's changed at the town level. It's been like this. They've had their own zoning way before my time, probably 30 years or more. So none of that's changed because of anything that the town changed. It's the same way it's always been for years.
And that's why there was that opportunity for you to submit your official map so we can incorporate it within our uses. I do have some pros and cons real quick.
Bob, I gotta ask you this question or I'll forget it. So between the town and the county, your last point here of being able to convey back and forth, what would we be trying to convey back and forth, I guess, because would it not be all in their wheelhouse?
It would be, we would just be.
So I mean, there would be no conveying other than we would still say, here's the setbacks, but they would know that because that's state setbacks. It isn't necessarily.
But Jason gets questions all the time from contractors that might be building in that shoreline district, and he'll want to know those things, and we'll just have to refer them.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. You just,
But
they'd be
setbacks and
referred
stuff, the
to.
town isn't doing the setbacks. and
No,
stuff. Shoreline zoning
the use
still applies.
provisions, yes.
Yeah.
And I mentioned that earlier,
Yeah.
the ordinary high water mark, the road setbacks is still under county zoning authority. It's the use.
And district and use.
District, what would be the use?
Doesn't this resolution, so the way I'm understanding it, this resolution, you want, so the county has 1,000 feet from ordinary high water mark. That zoning is with the county, yet the rest of the zoning is with the township. Is that correct?
Our interpretation of the state statute is counties are delegated zoning authority in the shoreline areas.
And that's what this resolution is for, is to give all of that zoning to the township that's zoned. So that is St. Croix Falls, Garfield, and Farmington.
Shoreland
The
zoning,
shoreline.
but the shoreland zoning and our 115 still applies
For the county.
to the, and it applies to the town. If
That
that,
applies to both.
that still applies.
So the folks on Deer Lake won't be
No,
affected by this. It'll still be under county.
exactly.
That town. Anything else is the town. What
use.
they're looking at is what underlines shoreline. Is it residential, commercial, industrial? We changed everything with what, 300 feet? This is residential.
Everything within 300 feet of the class.
So they had the
And
opportunity.
what's the use within a district?
So those, in the resolution, those are all the districts. Okay, those basically would be removed town level. They would incorporate their own use districts.
Well, we're not removing them. We don't use them.
You don't use them, but you're incorporating your own.
Yes.
And that's why when we started this conversation, alternatively, when we did the rewrite, you could have submitted those uses, those districts to us, and we would have incorporated them in. That was sort of the easy solution that,
On the map, so it'd be done. Yeah. That's
Well,
what I'm
you
trying to
could,
get at.
you'd put,
None of this would be on there. It'd be yours stuff.
yes,
This would not,
but
it would
all
just say
the,
residential. We wouldn't know what the use restrictions are.
yeah,
It would say commercial. We don't know what those are.
Yeah.
Because it wouldn't matter. They have to go to you.
Yeah.
But that's what the map would have said then.
basically, if you think of Article 8 in our shoreline ordinance, these three towns would be exempt to those districts.
Yes.
That's what we're doing. And there is a couple pros and cons that are both. This is something, if it was to happen, and I don't know if we're setting precedent or not, but if it doesn't work, the town can always opt back in to the county use or Article 8 of the zoning authority. However, in that interim, that's sort of subject to being grandfathered. So those are still the town's responsibility. We could go back to the creation of the old general purpose district too, where with conditional use permitting, I think that was what we had done in the past. So we could return to that after this experiment. But again, I don't know if we're setting a precedent statewide. And if we start with the zone towns, does this open the door for all the other towns to petition for opting out of the use provisions? That's it. And remember, what every amendment, every change we make to our shoreline ordinance does require some review, and I believe that's in the resolution.
So I've got a question for Kim, I think, because on your last statement there. So they fill out the map, they put commercial where they want it. Problem still is the conflict, the uses conflict, because we have some that are different than theirs. They have some, but you just said it would just say commercial, and the uses would still be in their court,
Should be
would
in
be
there.
with them,
Should be with them.
and not with us.
Yes.
So is
Jason, I
is
forget
that right? I mean,
the underlying district under the shoreline would fall into theirs.
Yeah, so, and that, as we got our response back from K Watts, both zoning districts are gonna apply. And that, so that's where, in that, having that link and that cooperative effort with the town and that on creating those maps, that's why we took so long and that to have those maps created. Because remember, there's core uses, conditional uses, and permitted uses in that for each zoning district. So, if you assign a general business commercial district, we've got 53 different uses that are allowed underneath that zoning district. And that it's gonna be really tough to find one that doesn't work. You know what I mean? If you zone a general business commercial. Same thing, residential, it's still gonna have your single family, your multifamily, those are all very uniform. And the county, being that we've got 12 zoning districts, has even got those kind of in between zoning classifications like Hamlet, which allows for small business, commercial, and residential. So a Hamlet district is what the town of Balsam Lake did along Highway 8, because they had a bunch of billboard signs, which are technically required in the commercial district. And then they've got, a scattering of houses and businesses and stuff going on down Highway 8. So what they did is they just said, okay, we're gonna take 330 feet from the center line, and that, or right away, I can't remember what exactly it was, and they're gonna paint it Hamlet on each side of the road. the town of Lincoln did the very same thing, and that just north of Amory, and that where you got, you know, a lumber yard, you got a gas station, you get up by County Road H, you got residential homes, you got mini storages, you got, you know, auto repair. It allows for the best of both worlds. So that's kind of it. But in other words, if the town zoning map and the county zoning map are very close to working together, and that, I don't think that you're gonna have conflict in that between the two, and that, except in an extreme case where they really do want to change. And when the whole comprehensive rewrite was going on, and that we used to only have a handful of zoning districts, but when we went out and talked to the towns, and that all the towns wanted more local control. And so how do you get local control? You provide more zoning districts, because that's gonna trigger more rezones, and that, which then goes back to the towns for that first approval process. So the same thing, and that technically in the shoreland areas, the county can rezone a piece of property and that without the town being involved. And that, whereas like the Nineman one today, that was under the comp, and that they can't even bring that to the county unless the town says, yes, we approve of this rezone. But it's been the committee's understanding that I've gotten, and that is that even in the shoreland areas, and that you guys are gonna wait before deciding on a rezone until you hear from the town. So that's to try to get that cooperative effort and that with the towns. So, yeah.
So,
As they're
but-
listening.
Just, maybe it's just me. So they put commercial along Highway 8, and we put it in. It's still going to be their uses plus our uses. It isn't gonna be just their uses because they put it under commercial. It's gonna be their uses plus our uses. So if each of us have 20, maybe we've got 25 or 30 actual uses, because some of them are going to change. So the problem is the uses that aren't matching, right? I mean, yeah, you're saying I can
We
do
have
this.
53.
We have
Commercial.
53 uses in the general business, and a lot of them are very vague. They're like implement sales, and they're, you know, professional offices, and they're gas stations, they're restaurants, you know. I mean, they're not real specific. So that's where I'm saying that most of them fall in, you know. I mean, we don't see that many rezones and that coming before the committee to change a commercial district, you know, and that between commercials, you know, we never get one that's from B1 commercial to B2 commercial or B3 commercial. And that commercial is pretty open, and that it allows for a lot, you know. So the ones that we've been seeing are, you know, from residential to mining. And that's one of the things in that the town of Balsam Lake, why they adopted county zoning, and that they wanted to be involved with everything, and that because they had, you know, mines coming in, they took and they had, you know, the Highway 8 corridor going through their town. So
Why,
Yes, it's
why
posted
did the
now.
county, like on Highway 8, all that land that's zone commercial in the town, why did the county determine it wasn't commercial, it was now RA5?
And that because any town that was underneath their own zoning or unzoned, we took and we left the whole shoreland areas within that town as RA5. So we treated all the towns the same, whether or not they had zoning regulations or not. And we allowed the town then to take and decide, because if I was to take and make all those areas commercial, I would be importing my opinions and that into those zoning maps. And maybe the town has an issue and that with St. Croix Outdoors, just because we've talked about that. And maybe they don't like how it looks. And so maybe they think that no, we're okay with, you know, that, but you know, if they sell that, we maybe don't want a bar right there. You know, so if we go and make it commercial, we're taking away that local control of the town when we do the rezone. So that's why we started at the baseline, residential, ag, kind of, you know, that's what most of the county is zoned. And then the towns were part of that map amendment process, coming back and saying, no, we're okay making this commercial and stuff. And then it's their choice. It's not
Town of
me.
St. Croix Falls wasn't, I mean, it took you 4 years to get the other towns to comply too, right?
So you gotta remember that this was a two-step process, and we had a lot of state amendments. The shoreline portion that we're talking about And that the petition I just ran into, it was like April 15th of 2019 when it was adopted or when it was filed. In June is when the memo went out to the towns. We asked them in that to take and have it completed by the end of October, which was, 4 months or whatever. They came back and said that was not enough time. We extended it and that I believe to the end of the year. Then we had committee meetings and we had the ordinance before the county board in April, and it was effective May 1st, 2020. So there's about 6 months that the towns had it.
So,
Different
I
ones.
have a
It started
question, kind of
2002.
not necessarily for you, but maybe for the town board, I don't know. So would the town board be willing to color the map now? And
I don't know that, what would that change for us? So the map here is colored a different color now. We still have the issue with uses.
that would bring and I'm not saying it would, I'm just trying to look for a simpler solution. Let's say. If it became commercial at the county, if you looked at county uses of commercial and the town's uses of commercial, whatever they are, how many of them would not be, let's say, compatible back and forth where?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Right, no, but I mean, that's, okay, would you say the county has 53 uses in commercial or whatever it was? Let's just say the town has 25. Could those, because they're vague, could they overlap enough that they would always be covered, I guess, is what I'm saying?
I don't know.
I know, I get it. St. Croix has always done it, and,
Yeah.
I understand where they're coming from. Like I say, because it is just uses, could we find that where we could, I don't know, we'll come back to, it's almost like last night, we need to find common ground where the town and the county could say, here's our uses, and here's our uses.
Yeah.
Where, which one doesn't work? Where can't we find where we can commingle these and make it work?
It sounds like you're trying to find a compromise where you're trying to say, how can we make this work to fit in our system?
Not have
That's
to rezone
reasonable.
everything. Yeah.
What I'm hearing from the town of St. Croix Falls is we're not looking for compromise. We want control of our own.
Yeah.
It's a principle that almost, it's like their feeling is you have no right to rule our uses. And so don't.
But
That's
we
what they're
wouldn't,
saying.
I don't think,
But
I don't think we would be if, let's say we looked at all of the uses, whatever they were, and said, all of these uses we can take your use and it fits here. We wouldn't be, if we could take your 25 uses and fit them inside of our 53, we wouldn't be taking any of your control.
What if
I
they
don't
wanna
think.
change something?
Yeah, because what it is general zoning has now moved into shoreline zoning. And it used to not be like that. And the town had say in general zoning, the town can say, we agree, we want this, we don't want this. Shoreline zoning is different. Once something's in shoreline zoning like this is now, the town has no control because shoreline zoning doesn't give towns that option, like general zoning.
But we're giving it to you, that whatever underlying,
No,
that you put, yes, it is.
It's a cooperative.
You put what you want underneath shoreline, that's what it is.
That's what the committee was really trying to do by having the maps developed, and that was extending that out. And that because
That's what
the
we were
committee
doing.
didn't have to, the committee could have created all the maps and that for the whole county. And that, but they wanted to have that working relationship, so that's why they extended it out.
We said, then they should zone whatever they want underneath there. It should be there. That's why we gave you the map. To do that. So if there was a commercial on say Deer Lake.
Yeah.
It stayed commercial, but it's still under shoreline. If it was residential next door, it stayed residential. Just go down.
But what
35.
we could do with that, now that that general zoning has been moved into shoreline zoning, we're limited on what our options are because shore,
You put whatever zoning you want on it.
Yeah.
You put whatever zone you want on it is on it.
it's my understanding,
No,
I'm looking through this letter again that was sent here. It's,
you put what you want underneath. That's what we ask every town to do. So even the zoned ones, if it was R5, whatever, up to the ponds, that's what we left. And then the town would change it if they wanted something else. Isn't that how we did it at each one?
Exactly.
We went
And
around
that, so
all that.
the county putting in general zoning districts in the shoreline ordinance did not affect the town's ability to do their own general zoning in the shoreline areas.
no,
And then-
it made it a nightmare for the residents.
But even before this, the county adopted the shoreline zoning ordinance in 1967. And since then, we've been regulating uses. And that, so for the last 53, 54 years, Polk County has had use regulations in the zoning, in that ordinance for shoreline. It was called the general purpose district. We had about a handful of allowed uses, mainly residentials and then after that, everything was a conditional use. And so that would be very similar to our process now, where we have a conditional use comes before the committee versus a rezone coming before the committee. So as far as the process at the county, I would say that it's no more burdensome or less restrictive. And if the process has stayed the same at the town level, then that it should be the same there. So even if we went back to our general purpose district and say the town has got its own commercial and it's just got a house on it right now and they want to make that a bar, for example, they're gonna have to go through a conditional use hearing here at the county, and that even though the town is still okay with it. And it's been that way since 1967, or whenever the town adopted their ordinances. It's just whether or not we call it rezone or whether we call it conditional use.
Well, I have a town board meeting tonight and this is on the agenda there too, so we'll talk about it again, but
I guess I would, yeah,
I would definitely talk. and
yeah,
see
I would like to see, and I'm not saying,
It's on
I'm
the
not
map.
saying that it should work and that's what the town should do. I would like, I guess, the town to consider at least looking into just changing the map, putting whatever you have wherever.
I don't know what changing a color on a map is gonna do. What's it gonna result?
But as far as the uses, as far as the
If
uses,
it's from blue to yellow, it goes from commercial to residential. Change everything blue and it's all commercial along there.
yeah, I just think if,
What's wrong with doing that?
Commercial, the definition of commercial is different at the county.
We know that,
Versus
but
the.
it's your definition that is used because you're zoned there.
and if the uses
They all fit in.
can,
Yeah.
can mesh together, even if they're not the same, but if they can mesh together,
If they have
then I
less,
think,
they have more
it-
restricted.
you know, if there's a use that is just
Yeah.
way off one way or the
Yeah.
other, then it doesn't, but I'll say, I think it could save this committee a lot of headaches.
Yes.
If we had our 53 years, however many it is, and there was agreement between the county and the town that, yeah, somehow or another, all of these can work both ways. And so from the use side of things, it would all be,
Jason, do you have a list of, I've got a list of all the districts. Do you have a list of all the is there some document that has a list of all the uses within each district?
You know, either the Polk County shoreline in that ordinance or the comprehensive, they're the exact same.
but you could get her a list before she leaves today.
Absolutely.
Of
Yeah.
the uses in
Yeah.
each district, right?
Yep.
That you could take tonight and
Yeah,
say,
and I'll bring that, I'll have the discussion with them tonight. I mean, I'm not, I'm,
Stuck in the middle right now.
yeah, I'm still.
And you're stuck. Gotta remember you're stuck.
And I want to be able to do the right thing too for for both. And my main thing is,
Save a lot of rezoning if you did the math, is what we're trying to say. We wouldn't have to have all
and
these
I
rezonings.
can't, I just can't, I had a hard time wrapping my head around that it's so easy to just go and change color on a map and that's gonna fix it all.
It
But
does.
yeah,
That's what zoning is. From here to there, it's the, it saves the rezoning, everything. That's why it was, these maps were all set up. People didn't understand that the town level does all their zoning that way.
And by doing,
So if you didn't do anything, it was R5, like. you
I'm
said,
not saying
just
that,
left it
I'm
alone.
not saying this is gonna work. I just think it's
It's a good start.
it's the path we should go down.
well, I don't want another ground steal. I want to be able to get this resolved and make it easy for the residents. So when they come in and they want to do a campground or they want to do whatever, this is the process.
This is the
And
process.
we shouldn't have to say, oh, by the way, now you need to go to the county because you're gonna have to get a rezone.
Now you would be able to look at every district with those
Yeah,
papers with all the uses on for every district
of your own.
and be
Get your
able
own,
to
go
say,
through it,
and then
put 'em on.
compare them to yours.
Yeah,
So in the commercial district, it'd be R 53,
yeah.
here's R 25, and
Yeah,
do we think as the town, do we think they can mesh together, or, okay, we need to call Jason and say, here's where, we got these four that are really different. You know,
Yeah.
or the committee could even want to amend the ordinance that to include those uses that don't align in
Yeah.
that if you want.
right,
we could
So,
amend it.
If I may, and I'm not, again, not a proponent for either side here, but for Sharon's benefit, if something is zoned R1 and
Yeah.
they want to change it to something different, they
Mhm.
have to get it rezoned. What is the process?
So through us and that, they would first, and that we would direct them to the town, even though they don't have to. And then after the town approval, they'd come back through us, file their application. We'd hold a hearing just like we had today. And basically it would be it, you know? So-
Jason just said something important. He
Yeah.
said, but we don't have to. And we direct them to the town, but we don't have to. And that's where I've had the same conversation with our zoning administrator. It's about customer service with these people. People that are building houses and they don't do this all the time. So they come into the town or they come into the county and they need, and it might say on their piece of paper, well, you're supposed to contact your town. Take the time to say to the resident, this is what you need to call the town clerk here, or you need to do the zoning administrator, or you need to call the county. Don't forget, you need to call the county, because people don't, it's not their bailiwick, you know.
Put their blinders on is what happened. I
Well,
mean,
they don't know.
it's-
They don't, if they've never built a house before, how do you know?
We
What,
should have a contractor that does that.
Mr. Wosel, and that,
Yeah, I mean, you have to.
So, Kim, if I may as well, so I guess the ultimate point
Yeah.
that I'm understanding from Ms. Kelly is it goes to the town can approve that zoning change. Then it comes to the county board, and the board then makes, or the supervisors then make the ultimate determination of whether that gets rezoned, right? They take into consideration what the town did, but the board theoretically can say no. And I think that's the crux of what Ms. Kelly is
but
addressing is.
it goes to, the town isn't gonna say you need a zoning change, because the town, it's zoned commercial in the town, but it's zoned RA5 in the county. So the town is gonna choose,
That's the
Yeah.
easy thing. What
Yeah.
what would happen if you rezone?
yeah, if we rezone, yeah.
Right, so if this gets through the entire process, right, and this resolution is beginning of the process as well, but if it gets through the process and this were approved, that's what the difference would be, right? It would be taking the power away from the county to make that ultimate decision about that zoning change and giving it to the town. And I think we've talked about a lot of different stuff, and I feel like that very specific and narrow issue has been kind of glossed over for anyone who doesn't know a lot about what's going on
Mhm.
here. So that's really the crux of it is the town wants that power, and it's on you guys to decide whether or not that power stays with the county
Yeah.
or gets transferred.
because,
In
because
non-shoreline, they have that.
Right.
So what we've been doing is if it isn't shoreline, we send it to the town. They say, no, it doesn't even get to us.
Right. But if the
And-
town wants to change it and you don't want it to, then.
Usually doesn't happen that way. I mean, we haven't went against the towns
Right.
that we know.
And it hasn't happened that way. But again, I think that's.
But theoretically, then, I guess Jason or Joe, whoever, we don't even have to, in the shoreline district, we don't even have to give the town
That opportunity.
the opportunity to say no. And that, so I
Yeah.
agree with Joe that that's, at the end of the day, that's really probably the issue more than
Yeah.
anything is we have always extended that to
Yeah.
any town to say, okay, we want your opinion on this, even though we don't need it. I mean, and St. Croix Falls, I think, is saying, we don't want to be given, we don't want to be given the opportunity to say yes or no. We want the ability to say yes or no. And that is, it's a bigger issue than the use.
The state empowers us to do that 1,000, empowers the county. I don't think we can give that part of it away.
No, and they're not
We
saying
can't
that.
give,
They're
yeah,
saying all the general use stuff that didn't used to be in shoreline zoning that now is. We used to have,
what do you mean it wasn't in shoreline? It's always in shoreline if it's 1,000 feet.
there's a lot that some of, Jason, maybe you can explain that change more clearer than I can, but with the changes in shoreline zoning, some of the uses that the letter, these statutes, and we're talking about NR 115
Yeah.
and whatever. These statutes do not support the county's attempt to conduct general zoning through its shoreland ordinance. We expect the county shoreland ordinance only reference the items specifically set out in NR 115 regarding setbacks, mitigation, buffer zones. It should not purport to conduct general use zoning. Those items should be solely set out of the county's general zoning ordinance. So it's, and by having general zoning, the town can have a say in that. Shoreland zoning, by moving that into shoreland zoning, we don't have a say in that now.
We never did.
No, we did before because it wasn't there. General
Shoreline was
use,
always there.
shoreland was,
But
but the
underlying-
general zoning was not under,
General. We
it
don't even
wasn't,
have
it was
general.
under, it was,
We don't have general anymore, so then that.
It was under general purpose in the past.
Yeah.
That's that,
Yeah.
and the conditional use
Yeah.
process. So the county has always regulated uses, like I said, since 1967.
yeah.
And that, so,
Well,
basically what that's saying, and that is that the county, and that should only regulate the NR 115 uses and that, which, and that is what Kay Watts' email said that we're mandated to do. But Kay also said that we can only have one shoreline ordinance for all of the counties,
But
you
phase
know,
one,
so,
that's one opinion.
you know.
And for Malaya, that it isn't necessarily the correct opinion. But so,
But I mean, so tonight, I mean, the town would be willing to look at the uses, see if they overlap and,
I will bring that up and
you know, they're not saying it'll work, but if we could find
It would save a lot of headaches.
I'll say a simpler solution.
Yeah.
You know,
I might tell our new town chairman, he can come over there.
Because that battle has been long and forever, because now we did that 300 feet and all that to protect the lakes.
But there's no argument about that. The shoreland zoning, the way it was before general use moved
That's why
into
we had
it.
all them public hearings and all
I
that
don't know,
stuff.
I wasn't
Yeah,
involved in any of
thousands
that.
of meetings.
Yeah,
And it gets done and everybody comes in after the fact and goes, why don't we change this whole book?
but I think if
It's nice, but I
we
want to
could,
change it all. Yeah,
if this works, or is it really just that the town of St. Croix Falls is Joe's,
say what you mean. It's simple words.
independent.
is dug in and they want that, you know, they want all of the say instead of just, opinion, I'll say, of saying, yes or no, because then,
We'd have to find out if they can. We can't give up any of the state powers.
but
We,
I think-
I'm sure we can.
I'd
No,
like to
but
see us,
Leah has looked at this enough to know that, to give a legal opinion that there's nothing illegal about what's in this resolution. So
Right,
it's.
and so, like Jason has said, an R-115 would still apply, and
Yeah.
I think we've gone over that a number of times. Those are the state mandated things that
We have
you
to.
would still be enforcing.
Yeah.
This resolution is simply giving the zoning power
Yeah.
to those three towns that
Yeah.
have their own zoning authority within that shoreland.
Yeah.
And I think Jason got some indication from Kay that says that we have to have one zoning ordinance that applies to, one shoreline zoning that applies to everywhere. But the lack of clarity in exactly what she means when she's answering that question. We will still have one shoreland zoning that applies everywhere. It's just more or less creating a section of that ordinance for what doesn't fall into that section, for lack of better.
How about Deer Lake Conservancy? Have you talked to them?
Talk to them all the time.
Cool. That 300 feet that they wanted to protect that lake would come out then. Oh, well, sure, what? You want your own zoning, we pull it out.
And our 115 still
No, no,
applies.
it's that 300 feet where it's residential right now is what's around the lake, is it not?
So somebody comes into our office
That would get.
and they buy a lot off from Pier Avenue, one of the ones that's not they're not built on yet. And they say, yep, we're gonna take and we're gonna have a campground here, or we're gonna put 4 or 5 campers on there. I'm gonna keep it simple. I'm not gonna use bar or restaurant and I'm gonna say, yep, and put in your sewer system that's, gonna suit all these trailers and have at her. That's the difference.
Well, our ordinances wouldn't allow it. So we've
That's where
got.
it's gonna
we
come
have-
back on the town and that to enforce
On
it.
the town, and we have all those ordinances in place, and it wouldn't be allowed.
Yep.
It's just like, we have ordinances in the town that will not allow a CAFO. And that's been we don't have to do anything about that because that's in place.
Hoping, yeah.
No, we know it
because
is.
they know, I think they're the only town in the state
Yeah.
They had it before that.
that had it.
Yeah, we had
Because
it,
it goes back, theirs, I believe, goes all the way back into the 90s.
Yeah.
Before it was the,
Yeah.
that cutoff. Yeah, they have something before that.
yeah.
So yeah.
And we have, so we have our comprehensive plan is all, and I mean, we update it. Well, it's supposed to be every 5 years. It's been 6 now, but I'm after them to get that updated again.
But I think if the town is willing to look at these, then if they come back and say, no, we want complete and total say, then we'll have to decide where we're going from there. But maybe,
Mediator hat on tonight.
maybe looking at our uses and their uses, maybe there's compatibility between them and it can be an easier solution.
I would think.
Again,
Deer Lake Conservancy was a big push at some of this stuff.
Yeah.
For us,
Yeah.
to do that. They were-
I mean, like I said, even if the users don't align 100%, and that by them redoing their map for the town, that's gonna require an ordinance amendment. We could tie in the uses and that right in the same package,
Same
and
package.
that way they know exactly, so that they don't have to commit to the zoning districts and then wait on the uses being done. It could be all one deal. So
Well, then it would be, all the maps would line up.
one of the
Which
big
is
things too, and that is just having that consistency. I mean, we're contacted all the time and that by appraisals, we're contacted by contractors, we're contacted by real estate agents, and that we start piecemealing and that everything together and that it's gonna end up in a lot more phone calls and that. And our office is open Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4:30 with walk-in traffic. I'm not sure that the town has that kind of hours.
No, we
So.
don't.
So just understand that the town is probably gonna be delaying some projects then, that from getting going. So anyway, or could possibly because of their hours, so.
It should help.
But they do try to accommodate. They're pretty accommodating for people.
These appraisers, they'll call us the same day that they've got a closing, it's like, well, you've known about it for a month,
Yeah.
but it's the day of, so.
So we'll see what happens tonight.
Yeah.
I'll
You got a
Thank
whole
you
new
for this.
crew, so what a mess.
No, we
Why
only
did the guy
have, we
quit?
only have one new person on the board.
Oh,
We're not Osceola, we're not Osceola.
I was thinking Osceola, you're close enough.
No.
Comment on
That's
that?
scary.
Well, one of the areas in that where it'd be really difficult, probably even more difficult than on Deer Lake, where you got half and half, is Poplar Lake. All the lots on the north end of Poplar
Yeah.
Lake, the lots are actually split in half, and that where the north half is St. Croix Falls, south half is Osceola, and there's a pile of them along there.
Yeah.
And that, so that would be where we'd really start seeing some consistency issues, because I can do my commercial business back there, but I can't do it here, you know? So on the same 10th of an acre lot, you know, so.
This road is in
Yeah, the
St. Croix Falls,
Yeah,
and then your house is in.
You just convinced your board tonight to make our lives here easier.
Yes. That's what we're shooting for.
your mission is, should you accept it?
This one. How many zoning deals, you buy that color and just go with the map with the Sharpie, you just do it and then bring it in.
I wish it wasn't that easy.
It is. That's how easy it would be.
I don't
You
think
want me
so.
to do it? I love playing with the magic markers. I'll do it for you. I got kids.
See, this is why it's gone, all the thinking I've had to do today.
Overthinking, Brad, if it's gone.
It's noon already.
It's,
Well, trust me, there's been a fair amount of overthinking the last hour.
Overthinking.
Steamed out anything that was left up there.
Yeah.
It's warm in here.
how we doing?
June
that's
2nd
fine.
agenda. Number 7, we'll have Mo here. 7A and B, see if there's any new developments there. I'm guessing Mr. Neiman might be here as early as June 16th for his conditional use. 9A, we can leave on. Give you an update on that.
You should always be on.
Yeah, because we're meeting with them tomorrow and we'll understand their process more. I do something that Ben might not have mentioned is that deep dive with our consultant, Alta. They'll be coming here. And with PTAG, we'll be visiting every trail facility, so and evaluating. That's going to be an intensive week. I think it's 4 days. We're breaking them out in different user groups. The 6 user groups, we have different teams that will be out there. I'm thinking 9B, that would probably be June 16th meeting. Again, we failed to bring up the ATVs on the Gandy. I was referred to them at the meeting on Monday, so we'll visit about that on the June 16th. 9C.
At least this second meeting, because that'll fill the place.
9C.
Yeah.
Well, like Ben mentioned, we hope to hear from Michelle Carlisle from the DNR on the letter that you collectively sent by the end of the week, so hopefully that'll be here. 9D, maybe the signs, the colored. So we'll leave that on. I think,
He should be pushing buttons hard.
well, I don't know how to do that. I mean, remember the whole Stour experience,
That's true.
waiting and waiting for submission for several months, and then we got on the line with
In
management.
3 years, they've had to look at that and not make any decisions or should change it or anything, and now they'll send us a 2-page list of changes or something. I mean, that's BS. That's unbelievable. We'll live for something else. Saying they should push it.
Well, that's the impression we have now, that they're waiting until the Stour litigation is settled, so we're really in limbo.
Should
I mean,
keep
we could
pushing it,
pressure
say it
them.
has nothing to do with it. Stour has nothing to do
Or
We
to
need to
speak,
start calling our state senators and legislators and find out why the heck the DNR moves like
with
a
it. He's winning
turtle.
this game
Crazy.
and putting us off.
well, that's kind of why I brought up the Stour master plan. We submitted in July. It wasn't until December we had that work group together, so.
Yeah.
But it took, some folks with political capital to make the calls, so.
Yeah. But I mean, but this one should have been held up 3 years. They're two separate things.
9G, definitely, we'll bring that back. We'll have a resolution typed up. I'm gonna make sure we run it by our exceptional corporate counsel office.
Should have forestry too, to make sure we don't. screw it up. 'Cause forestry-
That's forthcoming. And then 11A, I suppose the product from tonight's town meeting will be, we'll know where we're headed on that. Again, I just want to share with you, and we've offered this before, Sharon, both Jason and I are willing to come to town board meeting.
Okay.
Simply invite us, we'll come. So that's what I have. As you all know, things emerge every 2 weeks, so there could be a couple other things, but that's what we have. Anything else to add?
We're gonna trust Sharon's gonna do such a good job tonight that you and
She'll be
Jason
with
don't need to be invited.
Template,
It'll all be rosy.
and markers,
Monday is
the
gone.
template.
We will have another public hearing on June 2nd, and that's a rezone in the town of Bone Lake.
Oh.
So, just so you know.
I wish you said St. Croix Falls.
We'll make,
Bone Lake, yep.
Maybe we won't see any of those.
Nate,
Cohen, Road Schoolhouse.
Who?
oh, I bet I do vote it, yeah.
Where is it, Jason?
Old Schoolhouse on County Road I, it's Sophia Owens.
Yep.
And that, so from RA5 and that, business, that sounds like she's got a cafe that she's running in there. And she wants to put a separate house and that alongside of it.
Eaters and stuff. She's quite so
No,
Town is already
supper on there.
that's all, unless y'all have anything else.
Anyone else think anything?
Nope.
Don't call me, I'll call you. Then if I have something. Sharon,
I make a motion, we adjourn.
second. Doug. All those in favor, say aye. Oh,
You know, at 10 o'clock or 1:45, I thought this was really gonna be done early today. We were moving right along. It's like, no wonder O'Connell came back. He has got the hammer down. And here it is, it's noon.
Someone got motor mouth.
Believes in so
Hey.
at all.